Chapter 569. Hearing Li Shan's words, Silver Knife paused for a moment, then nodded. Lord Protector, I've learned my lesson. I'm already satisfied with a level 5 strength increasing pill. Silver Knife paused for a moment, then continued, Lord Protector, I heard that our sect only has one level 5 strength increasing pill. If that's the case, then I won't make things difficult for you. Give me that level 5 strength increasing pill in exchange for my level 25 elixir. After hearing Yin Dao's words, Li Shan was stunned. After a while, he reacted. He didn't say anything, so he picked his ears and asked, Silver Knife, what did you just say? Seeing that Li Shan didn't understand what he said, Silver Knife opened his mouth again. Lord Protector, I said, give me that level 5 strength increasing pill. No. Hearing Silver Knife's words, Li Shan didn't even think about it and immediately rejected. What kind of joke was this? The huge Godly Knife faction only had one level 5 strength increasing pill. Not to mention the disciples of the faction, even the Godly Knife faction's faction master did not dare to use it lightly. One could only imagine how precious this level 5 strength increasing pill was. It could be said that a level 5 strength boosting pill was far more valuable and useful than a level 25 equipment. Level 25 equipment only increased one's defense, but the level 5 strength boosting pill could directly increase the user's strength for 25 years. This was a real increase in the user's strength, unlike level 25 equipment which only increased the user's external defense. 25 years of power. How many 25 years did a person have? Now, this Silver Knife, who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, must be dreaming, wanting to use that level 25 equipment to exchange for that level 5 strength increasing pill. Seeing that Li Shan's eyes were about to spit fire, Silver Knife was confused and quickly asked, Lord Protector, was my offer too low? Haha, before Li Shan could answer, Silver Knife had just finished his words when Shadowless, who was standing at the side, started laughing. Hearing Shadowless's laughter, Li Mingshan only felt that it was very harsh. He turned his head and glared at Shadowless, asking coldly, Shadowless, what are you laughing at? What's so funny? Tell us and make us happy. Hearing Li Shan's cold question, Shadowless didn't dare to laugh anymore. He quickly lowered his head and tried to hold back his laughter. No, I didn't laugh. I just felt that my throat was a little itchy. I just wanted to clear my throat. I didn't laugh, really. Li Mingshan, you guys continue. I won't disturb you. After saying this, Shadowless quickly turned his head and no longer looked at Li Mingshan. Hearing Shadowless's explanation, Li Mingshan sneered, Really? I thought you were laughing at me. Hearing this, Shadowless hurriedly waved his hand. Li Mingshan, what are you talking about? Why would I laugh at you? I really wasn't laughing. Seeing that Shadowless kept waving his hand and trying to hold back his laughter, Li Mingshan almost exploded in anger. He turned his head and looked at Silver Knife angrily, but he saw that Silver Knife was looking at him with a blank face. Seeing Silver Knife's expression, Li Mingshan was stunned. At this moment, Silver Knife's face was blank, especially his eyes. Although they were wide open, but at this moment, one was bigger than the other, and the other was smaller. Even his eyes didn't seem to be in their original position, forming a strange look. Seeing this scene, Li Shan sighed. He took a step towards Silver Blade and slowly said, Silver Knife, do you know how long that level 5 strength increasing pill has been in the Godly Knife sect? Silver Knife shook his head. I don't know. Li Shan slowly said, It's been 30 years. That level 5 strength enhancing pill has been in the Godly Knife sect for 30 years. However, because this strength enhancing pill is too precious, no one dares to use it. Speaking up to here, Li Mingshan paused for a moment before continuing. Everyone, including the Godly Knife sect's leader, didn't dare to suggest using it because this strength-increasing pill is too important. As long as you take it, you can increase your strength by 25 years. Especially when there is a strong enemy like the Sky Sword sect, you can't use it easily. If there is a battle between the two sects, perhaps this strength-increasing pill can change the situation and become the key to victory. So, until now, no one dares to suggest using this strength-increasing pill. Speaking up to here, Li Mingshan looked at Silver Knife and slowly asked, "Silver Knife, do you understand what I'm saying?" Hearing Li Mingshan's question, Silver Knife nodded. "Lord Protector, I understand what you mean, and I also understand the value of this strength-increasing pill." Seeing that Silver Knife understood, Li Mingshan let out a long sigh of relief. A smile returned to his face as he slowly said, "Silver Knife, I really didn't misjudge you. You are a reasonable person." Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Silver Knife also smiled. "Lord Protector, don't worry. As long as I, Silver Knife, eat this level 5 strength increasing pill and increase my strength, I will definitely be able to defeat the Sky Sword sect. Our Godly Knife sect will become the strongest sect in the South region. Lord Protector, I know you want me to do this, so I will definitely not let you down." Looking at Silver Knife's big and small eyes, Li Mingshan was so angry that his heart was trembling. After talking for so long, Silver Knife said that he understood. However, what did he understand? He clearly didn't understand anything. Although the Godly Knife sect was powerful, how could the Sky Sword sect be underestimated? The two sects had been fighting for so many years. Although there were wins and losses, Li Mingshan knew that the Godly Knife sect had lost more times. To be honest, the Godly Knife sect's strength might really be a bit weaker than the Sky Sword sect's. Li Mingshan knew very well that although he had told every disciple of the Godly Saber sect that the Godly Saber sect was the strongest and invincible in the South County, he knew in his heart that those were just slogans. If the two sects really fought, it was not certain who would win. Now, Silver Knife, this unranked disciple, actually wanted to rely on a level 5 strength increasing pill to defeat the famous Sky Sword sect. This was no longer a dream, it was a fantasy. As long as one was a normal person, they wouldn't even have such a dream. If it was really that simple, then as long as the sect master of the Godly Knife sect took this level 5 strength increasing pill, wouldn't he immediately become invincible? Looking at the confident Silver Knife, Li Mingshan couldn't help but ask, "Silver Knife, do you think that you can defeat the Sky Sword sect just because you took that level 5 strength increasing pill?" Hearing Li Mingshan's question, Silver Knife smiled proudly. "Lord Protector, didn't you just say that although my talent is not good, I am hardworking, strong, and persevering?" Speaking up to here, Silver Knife paused for a moment before continuing, "With my advantages and that level 5 strength increasing pill." Chapter 570. Dao continued, "Lord Protector, as long as I take that strength increasing pill, my strength will naturally increase greatly. At that time, I believe that no one will be my match. The rise of the Godly Knife sect will only be a matter of time. When the Godly Knife sect becomes the #1 sect in the South region, even without that strength-increasing pill, there will be no problem." Li Shan stared at Dao blankly. He did not know how to tell him that a strength-increasing pill alone would not solve any problems. After a while, Li Shan finally gave up on this idea. Dao had already gone crazy and was living in his own fantasy. No matter how much he tried to persuade him, it would be useless. Thinking of this, Li Shan nodded. "Dao, good job. I was not wrong about you. The future of the Godly Knife sect depends on you." Dao nodded solemnly. "Don't worry, Lord Protector. As long as I, Dao, am here, there will be no problem." After hearing Dao's words, Li Shan smiled and said, "Good, then it's settled. I will be responsible for exchanging your level 25 equipment for that level 5 strength increasing pill. Then, you will join the Wu clan and become the disciple of the Wu clan's successor. This matter is settled. Dao, what do you think?" After hearing Li Shan's words, Dao nodded and laughed. Lord Protector, when my strength increases greatly and I become the head of the Wu clan, I will definitely repay you. Just as Dao's words fell, Wu Kudi could not hold it in any more and shouted, "No, I don't agree." After hearing Wu Kudi's words, Dao immediately turned his head and looked at him unhappily. "Wu Kudi, what do you mean by this?" Dao paused for a moment before continuing, "Wu Kudi, I have already agreed to join your Wu clan. What are you still not satisfied with?" After hearing Dao's words, Wu Kudi flew into a rage. However, after thinking about it, he suppressed the anger in his heart and pretended to be calm as he said, "Brother Dao, I am very satisfied. However, the Godly Knife sect exchanged the elixir with you. I think you have suffered a loss." After hearing Wu Kudi's words, Dao's eyes lit up. "Wu Kudi, do you have a better pill?" Wu Kudi hurriedly nodded his head. "Indeed I do. If the Godly Knife sect's strength-boosting pill is compared to my spiritual herbs, they are definitely not on the same level." Dao asked in surprise, "Really? Wu Kudi, you're not lying to me?" Wu Kudi smiled and shook his head, but he was sneering in his heart. He could tell that Li Shan was just bragging. He had heard of the Godly Sword faction's strength-increasing pill. It was the highest level of elixir in the Godly Sword faction. It was not something a level 25 equipment could compare to. It was impossible to exchange a level 25 equipment for a level 5 strength-boosting pill. Wu Kudi knew that even if Li Shan agreed, it would not work. Because even if he wanted to use it, the Godly Knife sect's patriarch would not agree, let alone a small silver knife. Dao's martial arts talent was not good enough. Even if he ate the level 5 strength-increasing pill, it would not be of much use other than wasting the elixir. Thinking of this, Wu Kudi smiled and said, "Brother Dao, I heard that the Godly Knife sect's level 5 strength-increasing pill can increase one's martial arts by 25 years. Am I right?" Hearing Wu Kudi's words, Dao hurriedly nodded his head. "It is indeed so. That level 5 strength-increasing pill can indeed increase one's martial arts by 25 years. It is also a rare item." Wu Kudi shook his head. "Although the strength-increasing pill is very good, Brother Dao, if you want to rely on just one strength-increasing pill to increase your strength, I'm afraid it is not enough. Therefore, Brother Dao, you need better spiritual herbs to maximize your martial arts." Hearing Wu Kudi's words, Dao was both surprised and happy. He hurriedly asked, "Wu Kudi, does your Wu clan have such a good item?" Wu Kudi nodded his head. "Of course we do." Speaking of this, Wu Kudi paused for a moment before continuing, "With Brother Dao's character, in addition to your hard work and perseverance, just one strength-increasing pill is indeed not enough. If you eat our Wu clan's 1,000-year-old ginseng, it will definitely increase your strength by leaps and bounds. If you can completely absorb the medicinal power of this 1,000-year-old ginseng, then it will only be a matter of time before you become the #1 person in the South region." 1,000-year-old ginseng? Hearing Wu Kudi's words, Dao felt his heart beating rapidly. Although his mind was no longer normal, the name 1,000-year-old ginseng still existed in his memory. Dao calmed himself down and asked softly, "Wu Kudi, does your Wu clan really have 1,000-year-old ginseng?" Wu Kudi nodded his head. "Yes, this 1,000-year-old ginseng is our Wu clan's main treasure. It can be said that ordinary people have never seen it before. You can imagine how precious this 1,000-year-old ginseng is." Dao was overjoyed when he heard this and quickly asked, "If the 1,000-year-old ginseng is so precious, then will your clan members not agree to exchange it with my equipment?" Hearing Dao's words, Wu Kudi hurriedly waved his hand and said with a smile, "No, Brother Dao, you're young and promising. If our Wu clan can nurture you, then it will be our honor. What is a mere 1,000-year-old ginseng?" Hearing Wu Kudi's words, Dao was immediately relieved. He immediately stepped forward and patted Wu Kudi's shoulder. He laughed and said, "Wu Kudi, As long as I eat this 1,000-year-old ginseng, my strength will definitely increase greatly. At that time, with my strength, I will definitely become the Wu clan's patriarch. Speaking of this, Yin Dao paused for a moment before continuing, Wu Kadi, I will definitely not forget you. When I become the Wu clan's patriarch, I will promote you to be the next patriarch. What do you think? Hearing Yin Dao's words, Wu Kadi felt like vomiting. He took a deep breath and barely suppressed this feeling. Wu Kadi turned his head to look at Yin Dao and said with a smile, Brother Yin Dao, you really are a good person. You have ambition. To be honest, it is because of your ambition that I want to help you. Hearing Wu Kadi's words, Yin Dao's heart suddenly felt proud. Although his talent was not good, who dared to risk their lives like him? In order to obtain that level 25 equipment, Yin Dao was willing to risk his life. Now, his efforts had finally borne fruit. Looking at the people in front of him that he had to look up to, Yin Dao suddenly felt that they had all become shorter. After he ate that 1,000-year-old ginseng, he would become the Wu clan's patriarch with his strength. At that time, he would become an existence that these people looked up to. Thinking of this, Yin Dao felt a surge of passion in his heart, causing his heartbeat to speed up. His dream was finally about to come true. Chapter 571. Looking at the arrogance on Yin Dao's face, Wu Kadi sneered in his heart. If he couldn't even deal with a madman, wouldn't he be a joke? Brother Yin Dao, I know you're talented, hard-working, and have more perseverance than ordinary people. As long as you take the 1,000-year-old ginseng, you can definitely become the head of the Wu family. I believe in you, you can definitely do it. Hearing Wu Kadi's words, Yin Dao nodded and said proudly, Wu Kadi, don't worry, I can definitely do it. Wu Kadi suddenly sighed, Brother Yin Dao, it should be easy for you to become the patriarch of the Wu clan. However, could it be that you can only be the patriarch of the Wu clan because of your high level of martial arts? Speaking of this, Wu Kadi paused for a moment before continuing, Brother Yin Dao, you're very talented. If you take the 1,000-year-old ginseng, you'll have super high martial arts. I think a young man like you should have a bright future. We can't delay your future because of our Wu family. Otherwise, I won't be able to live with myself. Hearing Wu Kadi's words, Yin Dao's eyes lit up. He turned to look at Wu Kadi and asked with a smile, Wu Kadi, do you have any good ideas? Wu Kadi smiled and nodded. Brother Yin Dao, which sect do you think is the biggest in the South County? Yin Dao thought for a moment before hesitantly saying, I think it should be the Godly Knife sect or the Sky Sword sect. These two sects should be the biggest in the South County. Hearing Yin Dao's answer, Wu Kadi nodded. That's right, the Godly Knife sect and the Sky Sword sect are very powerful. They can be considered the biggest sects in the South County. Speaking of this, Wu Kadi paused for a moment before continuing. Between these two sects, in my opinion, the Sky Sword sect is a bit weaker than the Godly Knife sect. Therefore, the Godly Knife sect is the biggest sect in the South County. Brother Yin Dao, don't you think so? Yin Dao nodded. That's right, it should be so. The Godly Knife sect is very powerful. I think the Sky Sword sect is definitely not their match. When Wu Kadi heard this, he continued, the Godly Knife sect is the largest sect in the South region, and the Silver Knife brothers are rare geniuses in the world. I think that only the position of sect master of the Godly Knife sect is worthy of the Silver Knife brothers. Our Wu family is just a small sect. Compared to the Godly Saber sect, we are simply insignificant. With our strength, we are definitely not worthy of the Silver Saber brothers. Wu Kadi paused for a moment before he continued, therefore, I believe that the Godly Knife sect is the most suitable place for Brother Yin Dao. After hearing Wu Kadi's words, Yin Dao gradually frowned. After quite a while, he revealed a wisp of a smile as he raised his head to look at Wu Kadi and nodded with a smile. Wu Kadi, you are right. With my martial arts, I can only be the patriarch of the Wu clan. It is indeed a waste of talent. After saying this, Yin Dao paused for a moment before he took a deep breath and continued, "Therefore, I have decided to use my level 25 equipment to exchange for the 1,000-year ginseng." After saying this, Yin Dao turned to look at Li Shan, "Lord Protector, please help me become the disciple of the 6th disciple of the Godly Knife Sect so that I can become the sect master of the Godly Knife Sect as soon as possible." After hearing Yin Dao and Wu Kedi's words, Li Shan sneered in his heart. "All right, since everyone is so shameless, then let's hurt each other." Thinking of this, Li Shan turned to look at Yin Dao and smiled. "Yin Dao, I am very happy that you have such thoughts. With your talent, I think that you can really achieve your goal." After saying this, Li Shan paused for a moment before he continued, "Yin Dao, do you know why the Godly Knife Sect and the Sky Sword Sect are always fighting?" Hearing Li Shan's question, Yin Dao was stunned for a moment before he shook his head and asked, "Lord Protector, I heard that many years ago, there was a grudge between the leaders of the two sections. That is why they have been fighting for so many years. I don't know if this is true or not." Li Shan smiled and shook his head. "Yin Dao, I can tell you clearly that this kind of thing is not true because it is not important." After saying this, Li Shan paused for a moment before he suddenly sneered and continued, "The most important thing is territory. Yin Dao, do you understand? It is territory. The Sky Sword Sect and the Godly Knife Sect have been fighting for so many years mainly because of the territory controlled by the two sections. Whoever has the largest territory can become the biggest sect in the South region. Who doesn't want this kind of glory? The Sky Sword Sect and the Godly Knife Sect's leaders both want this kind of glory. That is why they are desperately training their martial arts to defeat each other and seize more territory. Yin Dao, do you understand now?" Yin Dao nodded, "I understand. They are fighting for territory." Li Shan turned his head to look at Yin Dao and said with a smile, "You should not be interested in their games. You should be challenging a higher level of difficulty." Yin Dao's eyes suddenly lit up when he heard this. He asked in a trembling voice, "Lord Protector, are you saying that I should have greater achievements than them?" Li Shan nodded and said slowly, "Wu Kedi is right. The Wu family is indeed a small sect. However, if you can lead the Wu family to become the biggest sect in the South region, wouldn't you have greater achievements than the Godly Knife Sect and the Sky Sword Sect? Yin Dao, tell me, am I right?" After listening to Li Shan's words, Wu Kedi sneered in his heart. If things were really that simple, the Wu family would have become the biggest sect in the South region. However, Wu Kedi also knew that Li Shan was talking nonsense. He was too lazy to refute him. He just silently thought in his heart about how to do more than what Li Shan said. Yin Dao's heart beat faster when he heard Li Shan's words. He began to imagine himself leading the Wu family to defeat the Sky Sword Sect and the Godly Knife Sect and become the biggest sect in the South region. No one in the South region could compare to this kind of glory. However, even though Yin Dao was crazy, he knew that it would not be easy. This was because he had never thought about it before. Yin Dao turned to look at Li Shan and asked tentatively, "Lord Protector, can I really lead the Wu family to become the biggest sect in the South region?" Li Shan nodded. "Yin Dao, you have personal aptitude, superhuman diligence, and indomitable perseverance." Speaking of this, Li Shan paused and continued, "Of course, with our Godly Knife Sect's elixir, marrow cleansing pill, you can definitely accomplish this great feat." Marrow cleansing pill? Yin Dao was stunned when he heard this name. He looked at Li Shan with some confusion. "Lord Protector, what is marrow cleansing pill? What is it? Can it increase my power?" Chapter 572. Hearing Yin Dao's question, Li Shan smiled and said, "The marrow cleansing pill is an important treasure of the Godly Knife Sect. It can raise the martial arts aptitude of the user by a level, increasing the talent of a martial artist." Yin Dao was both surprised and happy when he heard this. Lord Protector, is this true? Can it really raise my martial arts aptitude? Li Shan nodded. Yin Dao, why would I lie to you? Speaking up to this point, Li Shan paused for a moment before continuing. Yin Dao, as long as you take the Divine Knife Faction's marrow cleansing pill, your power will definitely increase. At that time, you will definitely lead the Wu clan to glory. Yin Dao was most worried about his martial arts aptitude. Now that this problem was solved, he was overjoyed. He felt as if he was floating in the clouds. It felt unreal. Lord Protector, can I really exchange my level 25 equipment for this marrow cleansing pill? Li Shan nodded. Yes, Yin Dao. As long as you want to exchange, I will help you fulfill your wish. Hearing this, Yin Dao turned to look at Wu Kedi and said with a smile, Wu Kedi, since it's like this, then it's settled. I'll use that level 25 equipment to exchange for the marrow cleansing pill with Lord Protector. Then, I'll join your Wu family and make your Wu family the #1 sect in the South region. Wu Kedi, are you satisfied with this? Hearing this, Wu Kedi sneered in his heart, but there was no change in his expression. He smiled and said, Yin Dao, your idea is very good. I thank you on behalf of the Wu family. Speaking up to this point, Wu Kedi paused for a moment before continuing. However, I feel that with your aptitude, becoming the successor of the Wu family is a waste of talent. So, I think it's best for you to fight for the Godly Knife Sect's position. That is the best choice. Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao shook his head. Wu Kedi, didn't you hear what I just said to Lord Protector? Only by leading the weak Wu family to become the #1 sect in the South region can I prove my strength. At this point, Yin Dao paused for a moment before continuing, Wu Kedi, don't tell me you don't want to? I gave up my position as the sect master of the Godly Knife Sect and went to your small Wu clan to be the successor. Do you have any complaints? After hearing Yin Dao's words, Wu Kedi was furious. This brat Yin Dao actually dared to belittle the Wu clan. This was unforgivable. However, Wu Kedi also knew that he couldn't argue with Silver Saber because Silver Saber was a madman. If he argued with Silver Saber, then wouldn't he become a madman as well? Thinking of this, Wu Kedi took a deep breath, suppressed the anger in his heart, and said slowly, Yin Dao, I understand your good intentions. I am also very grateful to you. However, I cannot let your good intentions hinder your future. Speaking of this, Wu Kedi paused for a moment before continuing, Yin Dao, do you know how big this world is? Do you know how wonderful the world is other than the South County? Yin Dao, with your ability, you should have a broader stage. If your life is only to lead the Wu clan to become the largest sect in the South County, then wouldn't it be a waste of your time? Speaking of this, Wu Kedi turned to look at Yin Dao and said with a smile, Yin Dao, our Wu clan cannot delay your future because of our own reasons. Otherwise, our Wu clan will regret it for the rest of our lives. After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao was stunned for a moment before saying, Wu Kedi, do you have a better idea? Wu Kedi nodded, of course. Yin Dao, if you can become the sect master of the Godly Knife Sect, then you can lead the people of the Godly Knife Sect out of the South County and explore more worlds. Isn't that better than wasting so much time in the South County? After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao was overjoyed. However, he immediately shook his head. Wu Kedi, I can't. I haven't been anywhere other than the South County. Even if I become the sect master of the Godly Knife Sect, I'm afraid I can't complete this mission. Hearing this, Wu Kedi laughed. Yin Dao, think about it. If you become the sect master of the Godly Knife Sect, do you still need to do these things? Speaking of this, Wu Kedi paused for a moment before continuing. For example, Li Mingshan and his brother. You can let them explore the outside world. After they finish exploring, you can lead the people of the Godly Knife Sect to occupy these places. Isn't this killing two birds with one stone? Yin Dao was stunned for a moment before laughing. Wu Kedi, you're right. Even if I'm not familiar with the places outside the South County, there will always be places I'm familiar with. As long as I let them go, this matter will naturally be done. Wu-Kadi nodded. Dao, you're right. Otherwise, what's the point of having so many subordinates? Speaking of this, Wu-Kadi paused. He turned to look at Dao before continuing. Dao, although this idea is good and correct, it would be a waste to exchange your level 25 equipment for a marrow cleansing pill. I think you should use this level 25 equipment to exchange for something of a higher level. Hearing Wu-Kadi's words, Dao was overjoyed. He quickly asked, Wu-Kadi, do you have something better? Hearing this, Wu-Kadi proudly nodded, of course. Our Wu family relies on this to make a living. If we don't have something good, then we won't even be able to eat. Dao quickly asked, Wu-Kadi, what is it? Hurry up and tell me. If it's really good, then I'll use my level 25 equipment to exchange for it. Wu-Kadi nodded and smiled. Dao, have you heard of the Great Revitalizing Pill? Hearing Wu-Kadi's words, Dao blankly shook his head. I've never heard of it. Wu-Kadi smiled and explained. The Great Revitalizing Pill is one of the most miraculous pills in the world. As long as you eat the Great Revitalizing Pill, you can immediately increase your cultivation by 50 years. Dao, don't you think it's amazing? 50 years of cultivation? Hearing Wu-Kadi's words, Dao immediately cried out in surprise. Wu-Kadi, can the Great Revitalizing Pill really increase one's cultivation by 50 years? Wu-Kadi nodded. Dao, I won't lie to you. You can ask anyone if the Great Revitalizing Pill can increase one's cultivation by 50 years. You'll naturally know if I'm lying to you. Hearing Wu-Kadi's words, Dao was both surprised and happy. How long could a person live? But this Great Revitalizing Pill could actually increase one's cultivation by 50 years. This was simply a miracle. A person's lifespan was limited. Even if they started cultivating from a young age, if they wanted to obtain 50 years of cultivation, they would have to fight until they were 60 or 70 years old. Then, how many years would they have left to live? Chapter 573. Seeing that Dao was intoxicated and did not speak, Wu-Kadi smiled and said, Dao, as long as you have this great recovery pill, I believe that with your ability, you will be able to lead the Godly Knife sect out of the South County. You might even become the #1 sect in the world. Speaking of this, Wu-Kadi paused for a moment before continuing. Dao, think about it. That's the world's #1 gang. If they can really achieve such an achievement, how proud would they be? After hearing Wu-Kadi's words, Dao's heart was filled with a warm current that instantly rushed to his brain, making him excited. The #1 sect in the world. What a grand goal! The Godly Knife sect and the Sky Sword sect had been fighting for many years in the South County, but they were only fighting for the #1 sect in the South County. If he led the Godly Knife sect to become the #1 sect in the world, wouldn't that be the highest glory? Thinking about this, Dao became more and more excited. The Sky Sword sect and the Godly Knife sect were still fighting for the #1 sect in the South County, while he was thinking about how to break out of the South County and become the #1 sect in the world. This was the gap between them. Thinking about this, Dao raised his head and looked at Wu-Kadi. He smiled and said, Wu-Kadi, your idea is not bad. If I were to become the head of your Wu family, it would be a waste of time. It would be better to become the head of the Godly Knife sect. This would save more time. At this point, Dao paused for a moment before continuing, Wu-Kadi, I will definitely make the Godly Knife sect the #1 sect in the world. I will let the world remember me forever. It was me who created the #1 sect in the world. After hearing Dao's words, Wu-Kadi immediately gave him a thumbs up and said with a smile, Dao, as expected of Dao. You have great ambitions. I was right about you. At this point, Wu-Kadi paused for a moment before continuing, Dao, don't worry. I will do my best to help you achieve the great cause in your heart. I hope that you can lead the Godly Knife sect out of the South County and become the #1 sect in the world." After hearing Wu Kadi's words, Dao nodded with satisfaction and said with a smile, "All right, Wu Kadi, don't worry. I won't let you down. I will lead the Godly Knife sect to become the #1 sect in the world. At that time, I will not forget your help." Wu Kadi chuckled and immediately cupped his hands towards Dao. "Dao, thank you very much." Dao waved his hand. "Wu Kadi, you don't have to be. I don't mind giving you some benefit." After hearing Silver Knife's words, Wu Kadi could only feel his eyebrows twitching and his hands trembling. A mere silver saber actually dared to spout such arrogant words, asking him to assist him with all his strength. Although Wu Kadi was furious, his expression did not change at all. He cupped his fists towards Dao again and said gratefully, "Dao, since you've decided, let's do it this way." Dao nodded and proudly turned his head to look at Li Shan. He loudly said, "Li Shan, I now announce that my level 25 equipment will be exchanged with the Wu family for the Great Recovery Pill. Once my martial arts have greatly improved, I will go to the Godly Blade sect and become the sect master of the Godly Blade sect. Then, I will lead the Godly Blade sect out of the South region and strive to become the world's #1 guild." After hearing Dao's words, Li Shan did not know what to say. If it was so easy to become the sect master of the Godly Knife sect, then everyone would be the sect master of the Godly Knife sect. Madman, he really is a madman. Li Shan secretly clenched his teeth. He wanted to see what was in Dao's head. Even if he was crazy, he should be able to think about whether this was possible or not. Li Shan admired Wu Kadi. He admired this guy for daring to say that he wanted Dao to lead the Godly Knife sect out of the South County and become the #1 sect in the world. At this moment, Li Shan only wanted to ask Wu Kadi why he did not eat the Great Recovery Pill himself and lead the Wu family to become the #1 sect in the world. However, Li Shan was very clear that Dao was willing to listen to this. Since Dao was willing to listen, then he would say it to him. There was nothing to lose. Thinking of this, Li Shan immediately clapped his hand. He looked at Dao and said with a smile, "Dao, I am very happy and gratified that you have such great ambitions." Speaking of this, Li Shan paused for a moment before continuing. "However, Dao, with your ability, it seems that you have only achieved this much. It seems like it is a waste of your ability." After hearing Li Shan's words, Dao was stunned for a moment and quickly asked, "Li Shan, do you have a better idea?" After hearing Dao's words, Li Shan's anger suddenly surged. This brat Dao was now extremely arrogant. He used to call him Lord Protector, but now, he was directly calling him by his name. Thinking of this, Li Shan's hands could not help but tremble. He wanted to reach out and grab Dao's hilt and kill this hateful guy. However, Li Shan was very clear that if he really did that, he would be the unlucky one. Putting everything else aside, he would not be able to obtain that level 25 equipment. With so many people in front of him, Li Shan could guarantee that if he attacked Dao in a fit of anger, there would be several people who would stop him. At that time, not only would he not be able to cut Dao down, but he would also be saved by others. At that time, when Dao saw that he had attacked him, he would definitely take the level 25 equipment and run to someone else's house. As for the level 25 equipment that was about to be his, he would not be able to obtain it in this lifetime. Seeing everyone's vigilant eyes, Li Shan was very clear that these people were waiting for him to make a move. As long as he made a move, the level 25 equipment would no longer belong to him. Thinking of this, Li Shan suppressed his anger and slowly let out a breath. He then smiled and said, "Dao, with your achievements, it would be easy for you to create a business. However, Just like I said, if your starting point is high, even if you succeed, others will think that it is natural. Speaking of this, Li Shan paused for a moment before continuing, but if your starting point is low, once you succeed, you will definitely receive everyone's praise. So I think that you should stay in the Wu family and lead the weak Wu family out of the South County. Then, you will become the world's #1 guild. Only then will you be able to show your ability and let the world see that you, Yin Dao, are the most capable person in the world. Yin Dao, am I right? After hearing Li Shan's words, Yin Dao shook his head with some difficulty. Li Shan, although what you said makes sense, it will increase the difficulty and waste more time. Chapter 574. After hearing Yin Dao's words, Li Shan shook his head and said with a smile, "How could that be? Yin Dao, with your strength, it would be too easy for you to dominate the South County." Speaking to this point, Li Shan paused for a moment before continuing, "Yin Dao, as long as you become the head of the Wu family, I believe that all the major gangs in the South County will flee at the sight of you. What's so difficult about that?" Hearing Li Shan's words, Yin Dao was in disbelief. "Li Shan, am I really that powerful? As long as I become the head of the Wu family, they will all submit to me?" Li Shan nodded affirmatively and said with a smile, "Yin Dao, of course. Now, your martial arts are not strong. You can see that others also want to help you. The reason why they want to help you is because you have a lot of potential, so they want to help you." Hearing this, Yin Dao was overjoyed and quickly nodded. "If that's the case, then good, I agree to become the head of the Wu family. Then, I will turn the Wu family into the #1 gang in the South County." Hearing Yin Dao's words, Li Shan nodded with satisfaction and said with a smile, "That's right. Yin Dao, only by doing this can you live up to your abilities." Speaking to this point, Li Shan paused for a moment before continuing, "However, you only took one great revitalizing pill, which isn't enough. Most importantly, the great revitalizing pill can only increase your martial arts by 50 years, which is a bit too little. From what I see, Yin Dao, why don't you use your level 25 equipment to exchange for the Godly Sword Sect's holy water? Only then can you meet your requirement." Hearing Li Shan's words, Yin Dao asked with some doubt, "What is holy water? How come I've never heard of it?" Hearing this, Li Shan smiled and nodded. "Holy water is the most secretive thing of the Godly Sword Sect. I've never seen it before. Legend has it that the first head of the Godly Sword Sect found a spirit water that could increase one's martial arts at the foot of the Dalian Mountain. At that time, the first head of the Godly Sword Sect only smelled the spirit water, and his martial arts immediately increased greatly. He became the #1 person in the South County, which was why he founded the Godly Sword Sect." At this point, Li Shan sighed. "Although the effect of the spirit water is good, it's a pity that the amount is too little. The entire Godly Saber Sect only has 1 drop. The Godly Saber Sect has an unspoken rule. As long as you become the sect master of the Godly Saber Sect, you can smell the holy water once to increase your strength." Speaking of this, Li Shan turned his head to look at Yin Dao and said with a smile, "Yin Dao, think about it. As long as you smell the holy water, it can greatly increase your power. If you take that drop of holy water, how much power will you gain? It is simply unimaginable. Yin Dao, tell me, is it true that only such an item of creation is worthy of you?" Hearing Li Shan's words, Yin Dao's heart was in turmoil. Yin Dao had never imagined that the holy water would be so powerful. No matter what kind of elixir it was, it needed to be consumed. However, the holy water could increase one's power by just asking them. This was simply beyond Yin Dao's imagination. Yin Dao was a child who loved to dream, but even if he was dreaming, he would never dream of a treasure like the holy water. Just smelling it could greatly increase one's power. Then if he ate this drop of holy water, wouldn't he immediately ascend to the heavens? Thinking of this, Dao hurriedly turned his head to look at Li Shan and asked with a trembling voice, Li Shan, can I really get that drop of holy water? Li Shan shook his head. If it's only like this, you definitely won't be able to get it. After hearing Li Shan's words, Dao's eyes immediately flashed with a trace of anger. Li Shan, what do you mean by this? Are you playing with me? Li Shan shook his head. Dao, why would I play with you? Of course you won't be able to get that drop of holy water. You will need to use your level 25 equipment to exchange for that drop of holy water. Only then can you take it. Hearing these words, the anger on Dao's face immediately disappeared and was replaced with a smile. Li Shan, then it's a deal. I'll use my level 25 equipment to exchange for that drop of holy water. Hearing Dao's answer, Li Shan immediately nodded his head in satisfaction. Good, as expected of Dao. You are decisive when doing things. After hearing Li Shan's words, Dao immediately looked up to the sky and laughed loudly. When he lowered his head, his face was already filled with dignity. Dao turned his head to look at Wu Kedi and lightly said, Wu Kedi, you heard it too. I've already decided on this matter. I'll do as Li Shan said and use my level 25 equipment to exchange for the Godly Blade Sect's holy water. Speaking up to here, Dao paused for a moment before continuing, Wu Kedi, don't be disappointed. After I use my equipment to exchange for the holy water and increase my strength, I'll immediately go to your Wu clan and become the Wu clan's patriarch. Wu Kedi, you should be satisfied with what I've done, right? After hearing Dao's words, Wu Kedi only felt the anger in his heart continue to surge. It continuously attacked his mind, causing his eyes to become a bit dazed. Li Shan, you shameless bastard, you really dare to say anything? Holy water, Wu Kedi had never heard of such a thing. He could guarantee that the holy water that Li Shan spoke of did not exist in this world. If there really was something like what Li Shan said, something that could greatly increase one's strength by just smelling it, then it would have been spread around long ago. Wu Kedi did not think that he was ignorant. After living for so long, even if he had never seen such a thing, he should have at least heard of it. However, Wu Kedi had never heard of such a thing as holy water in this world. However, even though Wu Kedi knew that there was no such thing as holy water, when he heard Li Shan's words, it was as if it was true. In his heart there was a feeling of anticipation. At this moment Wu Kedi understood that Li Shan, this old bastard, was completely shameless. He did not care about what he had or did not have. As long as Dao was willing to listen, he would say anything. Thinking of this, Wu Kedi was somewhat worried. Li Shan could be shameless, but he still clearly held onto his bottom line. At least, everything that Wu Kedi said existed in this world. Perhaps it did not exist in the Wu family, but it was definitely not something that Wu Kedi dreamed of. Looking at the complacent Li Shan and the dignified Dao, Wu Kedi pondered in his heart whether he was talking nonsense or just directly retreated. He wanted to seriously talk to Li Shan, but now it seemed that he could not win. If he wanted to win, then he could only talk nonsense. The most terrible thing was that there were so many people here. If he talked nonsense, then it would be bad for his reputation in the future. Thinking of this, Wu Kedi decided to give up. However, he really could not bring himself to do so. If he really talked nonsense, then he would definitely not be able to win against the shameless Li Shan. Unless Wu Kedi could also use Li Shan's method and talk nonsense, then he would have a chance to win. Chapter 575. Wu Kedi sighed and decided to back out. Just as he was about to speak, his heart skipped a beat and he swallowed the words he was about to say. Why am I standing here? It's for that level 25 equipment. I've been chatting with this lunatic for so long. Isn't my ultimate goal just to get that level 25 equipment? If I back out, then I'll lose the equipment. I won't have a chance to get that level 25 equipment anymore. Wu Kedi wasn't as greedy as Silver Knife. He didn't want things like great revitalizing pills, marrow cleansing pills, or even holy water. He knew that even if he wanted it, it was useless. With his status, he definitely wouldn't be able to get it. Not to mention those treasures. Just this level 25 equipment was a treasure that Wu Kedi could only look up to. Even if Wu Kedi wanted other things, he wouldn't be able to get them. However, this level 25 equipment was right in front of him. As long as he put in a little more effort, he might be able to get it. Level 25 equipment was definitely a rare treasure. Once he thought of this level 25 equipment, Wu Kedi's heart couldn't calm down anymore. Wu Kedi's thoughts fluctuated as he constantly struggled with his bottom line. On one hand, he was talking nonsense. On the other hand, he was talking about the level 25 equipment. These two thoughts constantly revolved in Wu Kedi's mind. Wu Kedi felt a little dizzy. He wanted the level 25 equipment, but he didn't want to talk nonsense. This made him feel like he was in a dilemma. Silver Knife saw that Wu Kedi didn't speak for a long time and was displeased. He coldly asked, "Wu Kedi, are you still not satisfied? I've already agreed to become the patriarch of your Wu family. Are you still not satisfied?" Hearing this, Wu Kedi's anger surged again. A small fry like Silver Knife actually dared to speak to him like this. This was unforgivable. Thinking of this, Wu Kedi's heart suddenly became clear. A person like Silver Knife, who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. If he didn't lie to him, who else could he lie to? Thinking of this, Wu Kedi made a decision. Since Li Mingshan was willing to be shameless for that level 25 equipment, then Wu Kedi would compete with him. Isn't it just talking nonsense? Are you the only one who knows how to talk nonsense and I, Wu Kedi, don't know how to talk nonsense? Li Mingshan, just you wait. Having made up his mind, the doubt in Wu Kedi's eyes disappeared and was replaced by a sneer. "Yin Dao, it's our honor that you're willing to join the Wu clan. I welcome you on behalf of the Wu clan." After saying this, Wu Kedi clapped his hands to welcome the Silver Knife. Seeing Wu Kedi clap his hands, Yin Dao nodded in satisfaction. With his hands clasped behind his back, he slowly walked in front of Wu Kedi, patted Wu Kedi's shoulder, and said in a deep voice, "Wu Kedi, after I become the head of the Wu clan, I will let you manage the affairs of the Wu clan for me. I hope you won't disappoint me." Wu Kedi's eyebrows twitched rapidly, but he gritted his teeth and endured it. A smile appeared on his face. "Yin Dao, good. I won't let you down." At this point, Wu Kedi paused. He hesitated for a moment before continuing, "Yin Dao, there's something I don't know if I should say." Yin Dao nodded slightly. "Wu Kedi, just say it. As long as it's right, I will support you." At this point, Yin Dao paused for a moment before continuing, "Wu Kedi, you can't do anything out of line. Otherwise, I won't let you go." Hearing Yin Dao's words, Wu Kedi laughed in his heart, but he still nodded. "Master Yin Dao, don't worry. I won't let you down." After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao's eyes lit up. Lord Silver Saber, this was a title that Silver Saber had never even thought of. Although this Wu Kedi in front of him was not a big shot, Silver Saber was very happy that such a person called him Lord Silver Saber. Yin Dao nodded with satisfaction and said lightly, "Wu Kedi, speak." Wu Kedi hurriedly said, "Master Yin Dao, although the holy water provided by Li Mingshan is very precious, compared to Master Yin Dao's status, it's still not enough. I think that Master Yin Dao should use a higher grade elixir to match your status." At this point, Wu Kedi paused and took a step towards Yin Dao before continuing in a low voice. "If others were to find out that someone of Sir Yin Dao's status would consume such a low-quality medicine, wouldn't they laugh at you? Therefore, I don't recommend you to consume the holy water provided by the Godly Sword faction." After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao straightened his back and his expression became more solemn. He coughed twice before asking solemnly. Wu-Kadi, since it's like this, do you have a solution? Wu-Kadi nodded. Of course I do. If I didn't, how would I dare to tell Master Yin Dao? Hearing this, Yin Dao waved his hand impatiently. Wu-Kadi, don't talk nonsense. If you have any ideas, quickly tell me. Wu-Kadi hurriedly nodded and said, Legend has it that in a mountain in the west of the south region, there's a magical elixir. It's said that as long as you take this elixir, you can immediately become an immortal. At this point, Wu-Kadi paused for a moment before continuing, I think that only this elixir is worthy of Master Yin Dao's status. After hearing Wu-Kadi's words, Yin Dao was elated. He asked, Wu-Kadi, is this true? Can that elixir really make people become immortal? Wu-Kadi nodded. Absolutely, because I've seen such a scene before. After hearing Wu-Kadi's words, Yin Dao hurriedly asked, Wu-Kadi, quickly tell me. Don't keep me in suspense. Wu-Kadi nodded. His eyes slowly looked at the night sky as if he was reminiscing. He slowly said, I remember that spring, I went to that mountain to find a kind of elixir. Because the mountain was too big, I actually lost my way. Just like that, I wandered around the mountain until night time, but I never came out of the mountain. Helpless, I could only continue to look for the way back. At this point, Wu-Kadi paused for a moment before continuing, I remember very clearly that I kept looking like this until midnight. I was already exhausted. Just as I was about to lose all hope, I stood on a mountain and looked into the distance. Suddenly, I saw a light in the distance. When I saw this light, I thought it was someone else, so I used all my strength to walk toward the light. Although the light was very clear, it was actually very far away from me. I had to rest twice before I finally arrived near the light. At this point, Wu-Kadi paused for a moment before continuing, Yin Dao. Chapter 576. Wu-Kadi continued, Yin Dao, can you guess what I saw? Yin Dao shook his head and said impatiently, Wu-Kadi, don't talk nonsense. If you have something to say, just say it. What did you see? After hearing Yin Dao's words, Wu-Kadi's expression changed, but a moment later, a smile returned to his face. At that time, I slowly approached the light and saw a figure flashing with golden light slowly disappearing. At the same time, I heard the person's laughter and what he said because he was excited. At this point, Wu-Kadi no longer asked the silver knife and directly said, This person is shouting that I have become an immortal. I really didn't expect this fruit to be so powerful. I'm too lucky, I'm really too lucky. Speaking of this, Wu-Kadi paused for a moment before continuing, seeing such a strange scene, I was so scared that I didn't dare to make a sound. I could only hide at the side and watch secretly. This situation lasted for the time it took to brew a cup of tea. Then, the man with the golden light disappeared in front of me. I waited for a long time. Seeing that there was no danger, I went to take a look. Within a radius of 50 meters, there was not a single blade of grass. There was only a 1-meter-tall plant in the center. I checked again and found that there were traces of the plant being pulled. According to the traces, this should be the place where the fruit grew. I then remembered what the person said and understood that the person must have eaten the fruit growing on this plant to become an immortal. Hearing Wu-Kadi's words, Yin Dao couldn't help but ask in shock, Wu-Kadi, tell me, where is this plant? What does it look like? Tell me quickly. Hearing Silver Blade's question, Wu-Kadi smiled and nodded. Silver Blade, the reason why I'm telling you this is because I want to exchange it for your level 25 equipment. I wonder if you're willing to do so? After hearing such miraculous news, how could Yin Dao still care about the level 25 equipment? After hearing Wu-Kadi's words, he immediately nodded. Wu-Kadi, as long as you tell me where this plant is, I'll immediately give you the level 25 equipment. Wu-Kadi nodded. Sure, as long as you sign a contract with me, I'll tell you the location immediately. Wu-Kadi paused for a moment before continuing, Yin Dao, although I can tell you the location of this plant, I can't help you find it. I think the Godly Knife sect has a lot of people. If you let them search, they should be able to find it. Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao immediately nodded. He turned to Li Shan and said in a deep voice, Li Shan, you heard Wu Kedi's words, right? Go and replace the pen and paper. I want to write a contract with Wu Kedi. After that, immediately send people from the Godly Knife sect to look for this plant. Once they find it, immediately report to me. Seeing the impatient look on everyone's face, Li Shan sneered, Yin Dao, do you really think this is true? Don't listen to Wu Kedi's nonsense. If this is true, then why didn't he go look for this plant himself? Why did he have to come back and tell you? After hearing Li Shan's words, Yin Dao froze for a moment. He then turned to Wu Kedi and asked doubtfully, Wu Kedi, is what Li Shan said true? Are you really lying to me? Wu Kedi smiled and shook his head. Master Yin Dao, don't listen to Li Shan's nonsense. He's just jealous. After saying this, Wu Kedi paused and suppressed his tone before continuing, Master Yin Dao, think about it. Such a precious thing, who wouldn't want it? This is something that can allow one to become an immortal after eating it. What is becoming an immortal? It's immortality and extraordinary magic power. Li Shan is jealous. He's jealous of Master Yin Dao's good fortune. He's jealous that he doesn't have such good luck. After hearing Wu Kedi's explanation, Yin Dao sneered and nodded. A little Li Shan is actually worthy of being jealous. If he wasn't a little useful, Seeing that Silver Blade believed him, Wu Kedi hurriedly said, Since that's the case, let's hurry up and go. Master Silver Blade can also send people to look for that plant. The sooner we do this, the better. If this plant is seen by others, wouldn't that be bad? After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao nodded and turned to look at Li Shan. He sneered and said, Li Shan, hurry up and do what I told you to do. After hearing Yin Dao's impolite words, Li Mingshan's hand trembled. He wanted to touch the handle of his saber, but he suddenly clenched his teeth. He saw Li Mingshan's face become very ugly, so he quickly patted him on the shoulder and gave him a meaningful glance, telling him not to move. After doing all this, Li Shan turned his head to look at Yin Dao, and a smile appeared on his face once again. Yin Dao, it's not that I don't want to get you a pen and paper, but I'm afraid you'll be fooled by Wu Kedi. Speaking up to this point, Li Shan paused for a moment before continuing, The treasure that Wu Kedi told you about is something that he said himself. No one else has seen it. If he randomly gave you an address, wouldn't he be lying to you? Yin Dao thought for a moment and then turned to look at Wu Kedi. Wu Kedi, you won't lie to me, right? Wu Kedi smiled. Master Yin Dao, how would I dare to lie to you? You're the future leader of Wulin. If I lie to you, when the time comes, you'll send countless masters to kill me. Then, won't I be the unlucky one? Master Yin Dao, don't worry, I understand this, so I definitely won't lie to you. After hearing Wu Kedi's answer, Yin Dao snorted, You wouldn't dare. Yin Dao turned to look at Li Shan and said slowly, Li Shan, don't worry, Wu Kedi wouldn't dare to lie to me. After hearing Yin Dao's answer, Li Shan nodded and said with a smile, Yin Dao, since Wu Kedi wouldn't dare to lie to you, then I'm relieved. At this point, Li Shan paused for a moment before continuing. However, no one knows if the plant Wu Kedi mentioned is real or fake. Most importantly, no one knows if the man with the golden light has become an immortal or if he was killed. Yin Dao, I feel that you don't need to take that risk. You should take some medicine that you're more confident in. That's the best plan. After hearing Li Shan's words, Yin Dao's eyes suddenly lit up and he hurriedly asked, Li Shan, do you know of any medicine that can make people become immortal? Li Shan nodded, of course. If I didn't know, how would I dare to tell you? Speaking of this, Li Shan paused and then continued, Yin Dao, I know of a very safe medicine. Chapter 577. After hearing Li Shan's words, Yin Dao was overjoyed and asked, Li Shan, what kind of medicine are you talking about? When Li Shan heard this, he held back his laughter and said solemnly, My home is in Funlin City in the South County. When I went back home last year, I had a very good friend in the same village. My friend was originally a couple, but when I went back this time, I only saw my husband. I was very curious because the couple basically never separated, so I asked him about it. He refused to say anything. Later, we started to drink. His alcohol tolerance was not very good, so it didn't take long for him to drink a little too much. At this time, I asked him about it again, so he took advantage of his drunkenness to explain it clearly. Speaking of this, Li Shan paused for a moment before continuing. It turned out that just after the New Year, they heard that there was a miracle in the West Mountain area, so they rushed over to have a look. The husband and wife were lucky. They searched the West Mountain for half a month and found nothing. Just when they were about to come back, they suddenly heard a voice calling out to them. When they were about to return, it was already after midnight. They stood on the top of the mountain and suddenly found that not far from them, there was a child. The child was about 4 or 5 years old. After seeing the two of them, the child ran away in a panic. The couple saw a child running around in the wilderness. They were a little worried, so they chased after him. Although the child was young, he ran very fast. Fortunately, the two of them both knew martial arts. Although the child ran fast, they could barely catch up. In this way, the child ran in front and they chased behind. They chased until dawn, when the child stopped in a valley. But what made the couple feel strange was that as soon as the child stopped, he just squatted on the ground and disappeared. The couple felt very strange, so they began to search nearby, but they didn't see any trace of the child. While they were searching, the sky was getting brighter and brighter, and the vision was getting better and better. Finally, they found a plant in the place where the child disappeared. The couple had traveled a lot all year round, so they naturally had a lot of knowledge. After a long time, they finally found that the plant turned out to be a ginseng. The two of them recalled the child they had chased last night and the ginseng in front of them. They immediately realized that the child they had chased last night must have been a ginseng baby. With this thought in mind, the two of them no longer hesitated and immediately dug out the ginseng in front of them. After digging out the whole ginseng, the two of them were even more convinced that the child they chased last night was indeed this ginseng. This ginseng was already fully grown. Although it was still not big, it was vaguely humanoid. Seeing such a treasure, the two of them decided that the wife would eat this treasure first, and there was a ginseng of the same size beside it for the husband to eat. The matter was decided. His wife ate the ginseng. Originally, he thought that it would only increase his power, but unexpectedly, his wife felt as light as a swallow. Slowly, she could even float in the air. Only then did she understand that the ginseng's effect was really extraordinary. His wife took the ginseng and slowly floated up into the sky. Her husband also wanted to dig out the ginseng next to him, but he thought about it. His ginseng was not ripe yet, so it would be wasted. So he did not dig it out. Instead, he waited at the top of the mountain every night for the ginseng baby to appear. As long as the ginseng baby appeared, it would mean that the ginseng was ripe, and the man would immediately dig it out and eat it. At this point, Li Shan turned to look at Yin Dao and asked with a smile, Yin Dao, what do you think of this ginseng? A month ago, that ginseng was not ripe yet. If you want, you can go to the west mountain of Funlin town and look for this ginseng. Hearing Li Shan's words, Yin Dao's eyebrows bloomed with joy. Although the ginseng Wu Kadi mentioned sounded good, he always felt that it was somewhat unreliable. Li Shan's words were different. He had completely told him the person and the location. As long as he went to Funlin town, he could immediately find that ginseng. Thinking of this, Yin Dao immediately stepped forward and came to Li Shan's side. He happily patted Li Shan's shoulder and said with a smile, Li Shan, you did a good job. When I find this ginseng, I will not forget you. After being patted by Yin Dao on the shoulder, Li Shan was simply burning with anger. However, when he looked at Wu Kedi who was sneering at him, he decided to endure. Li Shan knew that Wu Kedi was waiting for him to get angry. As long as he got angry at Yin Dao, then Li Shan was sure that Yin Dao would not hesitate to join Wu Kedi's side. At that time, the level 25 equipment and the silver dagger would fly to Wu Kedi. Therefore, Li Shan was not willing to accept this. Logically speaking, Yin Dao was a disciple of the Godly Knife faction, while Li Shan was a protector of the Godly Knife faction. His position was much higher than Yin Dao's. As long as he said a word, Yin Dao should unconditionally obey. However, this was not the case. Yin Dao, this brat, was crazy. What protector of the Godly Knife faction? Now, even the faction master of the Godly Knife faction was not in Yin Dao's eyes, let alone Li Shan. If it was not for that level 25 equipment that attracted Li Shan's attention. With Li Shan's violent temper, even if Yin Dao had a tyrannical background, Li Shan would not hesitate to beat him into a pulp. Li Shan suppressed the anger in his heart and said with a smile, Yin Dao, only a talent like you is worthy of such a good treasure. I hope you don't miss it. After hearing Li Shan's words, Yin Dao nodded and patted Li Shan's shoulder again. Li Shan, I have decided to reward you with that level 25 equipment. Speaking up to here, Yin Dao paused for a moment before continuing, Of course, my condition is that you tell me the location of the ginseng. Li Shan nodded without hesitation and said with a smile, Yin Dao, the reason I told you this secret is to tell you where this almost ripe ginseng is. Yin Dao nodded with satisfaction. Good, since we have decided, I will tell Wu Kedi not to tell anyone about this plant's secret. If there is a chance in the future, I will go and find that plant. Li Mingshan nodded and said with a smile, Yin Dao, there's no need to rush. Shouldn't we make a contract about the equipment? When the time comes, we won't have to trouble you. We can just go and find the water spirit medicine. After hearing Li Shan's words, Yin Dao nodded. Good, this is also good. I will write down my name for you first. When the time comes, you don't have to bother me and can just go and find water spirit medicine. Hearing this, Li Shan was about to speak when Wu Kedi laughed. Chapter 578. Seeing Wu Kedi laughing, Li Shan sneered. Li Shan didn't believe that Wu Kedi could be stronger than him. Li Shan didn't believe that Wu Kedi could be stronger than him. Wu Kedi naturally understood this. The reason why he was laughing was because he wanted to think of a way to solve this problem. After laughing for a while, Wu Kedi's eyes suddenly lit up. He really did think of a way. Since he couldn't win against Li Mingshan, then he might as well say something bad. Thinking of this, Wu Kedi laughed and walked towards Silver Knife. Just when the crowd didn't know what Wu Kedi was going to do, Wu Kedi had already stepped on the ground and rushed to Silver Knife's side like lightning. Wu Kedi's 5 fingers formed a claw and grabbed onto Silver Knife's throat as he coldly said, Silver Knife brat, I don't want to talk nonsense with you. Be honest and quickly sign a contract with me. Give me that level 25 equipment and I'll spare your life. Speaking up to here, Wu Kedi paused and coldly snorted before continuing, Silver Knife, if you don't agree, As he spoke, Wu Kedi's hand that was holding onto Silver Knife's throat began to slightly increase in strength. Cough cough, Silver Knife couldn't help but cough violently after being grabbed by Wu Kedi. The coughing caused a sharp pain in his body, and an even more intense pain. His stomach churned, and before he could answer Wu Kedi's words, he spat out a mouthful of blood onto Wu Kedi's hand. Seeing that his hand was stained red by Silver Knife's blood, and thinking that it was Silver Knife who spat it out, Wu Kedi felt a wave of disgust, but he couldn't take his hand back. He could only watch as Silver Knife spat out 3 mouthfuls of blood onto his hand. Seeing this scene, the people around him were stunned. Then, seeing Wu Kadi's discomfort, they couldn't help but laugh out loud. Hearing this laughter, Wu Kadi's face couldn't help but turn ugly. He coldly snorted, but didn't dare to use more strength in his hand. He was afraid that Silver Knife would spit out even more blood. Silver Knife brat, hurry up and agree. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless. Wu Kadi spat out these words fiercely, but he was suddenly stunned. Wu Kadi held the silver knife in his hand. After a series of violent coughs, he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. His body gradually softened and his eyes turned white. If it wasn't for Wu Kadi's hand supporting him, he would have fallen to the ground. Seeing this scene, Wu Kadi was stunned. Only then did he remember that Yin Dao was heavily injured. Even if he did not threaten him, he would not be able to live for long. Looking at Silver Knife slowly falling to the ground, Wu Kadi knew that this was bad. If the silver dagger was finished, then the level 25 equipment would be finished as well. Thinking of this, Wu Kadi hurriedly let go of his hand, only to see Silver Knife fall to the ground. Wu Kadi immediately turned pale with fright. He hurriedly squatted down, patted Silver Knife's cheek, and shouted loudly, "Yin Dao, how are you? Are you all right?" Seeing Wu Kadi let go of his hand, Li Shan immediately stepped forward and grabbed the hilt of his knife. He angrily said, "Wu Kadi, what are you doing?" Hearing Li Shan's words, Wu Kadi was stunned for a moment. A moment later, he felt a chill coming from behind him. He was startled, and did not dare to be negligent. He hurriedly stomped on the ground, and his whole body rushed forward. Just as Wu Kadi dodged, a saber light flashed behind him. Ah! The blade flashed, and after a mournful scream, the scene returned to normal. The blade disappeared, and so did the scream. Only the sound of Li Shan's breathing could be heard. Li Shan stared blankly at the silver knife that had been cut into 2 pieces on the ground, and his heart was filled with regret. A level 25 equipment, and it was finished by his own blade. Wu Kadi was also stunned. A moment later, he suddenly said loudly, "Li Shan, you are so cruel. You didn't even let your own disciple go." Li Shan, who was originally standing there in a daze, heard Wu Kadi's words. His eyes narrowed and a cold light flashed through them. He slowly raised his head, and looked at Wu Kadi not far away. After a while, he suddenly roared, "Wu Kadi, today, either you die or I die." After saying this, Li Shan's whole body had turned into a blade again, and rushed toward Wu Kadi. Li Shan's blade was released in anger, so its power was naturally not to be underestimated. Even if Wu Kadi was conceited, he would not dare to take Li Shan's blade in a panic. Wu Kadi saw that the situation was not good. He fiercely stomped on the ground, and his whole body shot to the side. Li Shan's blade missed, but he did not stop. He only roared, and once again swung his blade toward Wu Kadi. On the side, Wu Katian saw that the situation was not right. He hurriedly waved his dragon head cane, and met Li Shan's blade. Li Shan's saber and Wu Kutian's crutch collided with each other, making a crisp sound. After the sound, both of them simultaneously retreated a few steps, but suddenly brandished their weapons and rushed towards each other again. Wu Kadi saw that his brother and Li Shan were fighting, so he did not dare to be negligent. He was about to rush toward Li Shan, but he saw that Li Mingxue was also rushing toward him with red eyes. He could only change his direction and rush toward Li Mingxue. The two of them fought fiercely. Shadowless sighed in his heart. It was all over now. The level 25 equipment was also gone. The happiest person was, of course, Xue Lingzi. Now that Li Shan had killed Silver Knife, all the problems were solved. The only problem that everyone needed to solve was Silver Knife. Silver Knife needed a piece of level 25 equipment to increase his strength. However, how could they give him a piece of level 25 equipment? Thus, everyone was stuck in a deadlock. Now that the two sides were fighting fiercely, Shui Lingzi's heart was filled with joy. If both sides suffered heavy losses and retreated, then wouldn't they lose another 4 pieces of level 20 equipment? Thinking of this, Shui Lingzi did not dare to make a sound. She was afraid that she would affect the battle. If she disturbed them and they suddenly stopped fighting, then it would not be good news for Shui Lingzi. While Shui Lingzi was happy, she secretly glanced at Shadowless. She thought that if Shadowless could also participate in this battle, then wouldn't it be better if all 3 sides suffered heavy losses? The Wu brothers and the Li brothers had already gone all out. After the incident with the silver knife, Li Shan's level 25 equipment, which he was about to obtain, was completely ruined. Naturally, his hatred towards the Wu brothers was overflowing. The Wu brothers were not to be trifled with. Although they knew that they were in the wrong, but since the Li brothers did not listen to their explanation, then there was nothing they could do. They were not afraid of each other, so they decided to fight. Whoever lost was the grandson. However, the martial arts of both sides were more or less the same. Even if the Li brothers' martial arts were a bit higher, they would not be able to quickly end this battle. The battle between the two sides was abnormally fierce. The figures of the 4 people constantly flashed in the air. Chapter 579. Shadowless, who had been watching the battle, suddenly sneered. After being surprised for a while, Shadowless understood that if this battle continued, the one who would benefit in the end wouldn't be the two sides, but Water Spirit, who was watching from the side. No matter which side lost, they wouldn't have the face to stay. As long as they left, Water Spirit wouldn't have to pay for the 2 level 20 equipment. However, even though Shadowless saw this point, he didn't want to say it because it had nothing to do with him. No matter who won or lost, it wouldn't affect his 2 level 20 equipment. Wu Kudi, who was fighting, saw that he was being beaten back by Li Mingshui and suddenly shouted, "Li Mingshan, you killed Silver Blade yourself. Why are you looking for trouble with me?" Li Mingshan knocked Wu Kutian back and sneered, "If it wasn't for you, how could I hurt Silver Blade? It's all your fault. If it wasn't for you, I would have already gotten that level 25 equipment." After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Wu Kudi suddenly laughed. "Li Mingshan, let me ask you, where did Silver Blade get that level 25 equipment from?" Li Mingshan froze for a moment, and Wu Kutian, who was fighting with him, also couldn't help but put away his dragon head walking stick and stand to the side. Li Mingshui saw that Wu Kutian had stopped, so he could only snort and come to Li Mingshan's side. "Big brother, are you okay?" Hearing Li Mingshui's question, Li Mingshan only shook his head and turned to Wu Kudi, asking loudly, "Wu Kudi, what do you mean by that?" Wu Kudi heard and shook his head. "Li Mingshan, I don't mean anything. I just want to tell you that even if you want to fight, you've found the wrong person." After Wu Kudi's words, Wu Kutian, who had been fighting with Li Mingshan, also said in a deep voice, "Li Mingshan, no matter if Silver Blade died or not, Fire Spirit injured him. Even though Silver Blade is no longer here, he is still a disciple of the Godly Blade sect. As the protector of the Godly Blade sect, you have the responsibility to get justice for him." Hearing Wu Kutian's words, Li Mingshan's heart suddenly moved. That's right, as the saying goes, every injustice has its perpetrator, every debt has its debtor. Fire Spirit injured Silver Blade, so he had to pay for it. Even if Silver Blade was no longer here, it was still a fact that Fire Spirit injured him. Thinking of this, Li Mingshan suddenly turned his head and looked at Shui Lingzi in the distance. After a long while, he suddenly strode towards Shui Lingzi. "Li Mingshui, Li Mingshui, Li Mingshui, Li Mingshui's, Li Mingshui, Li's, Li Mingshui, Li Mingshan, Li's, Li's. In SS Blade, Li Long's, Time Blade, Li, Silver, Shui Lingzi, even though Silver Blade is no longer here, we still have to pay for the fact that you injured Silver Blade." After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Shui Lingzi's face suddenly changed. She forced a smile and asked, Li Mingshan, don't joke around. Silver Blade is no longer here. Even if I have to pay for it, who should I pay for it? Hearing Shui Lingzi's question, Li Mingshan sneered. Then, he pointed at his own nose and said coldly, Me! After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Shui Lingzi was stunned for a moment. After she reacted, she immediately laughed. Li Mingshan, we injured Silver Blade. What does it have to do with you? Why should we pay for it? Li Mingshan shook his head. You don't have to pay for it. You have to pay for Silver Blade. Shui Lingzi heard this and angrily said, Li Mingshan, don't talk nonsense. You already killed Silver Blade. The debt between us has been settled. I don't want to hear about this matter again. Li Mingshan shook his head. No, this matter can't be settled like this. You must pay for Silver Blade. Speaking up to here, Li Mingshan paused for a moment before continuing, although Silver Blade is no longer here, he still has his family. Shui Lingzi, you only need to give me the things that you gave him as compensation. I will give them to his family as compensation. After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Shui Lingzi suddenly sneered. She pointed at Silver Blade in the distance and sternly said, Li Mingshan, Silver Blade was killed by you. If you want to talk about compensation, you should be the one paying for it. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing, although we injured Silver Blade, we didn't injure his vitals. If we hurry up and treat him, there will be no problem. Li Mingshan, but you, in order to pay for it, you refused to treat Silver Blade. In the end, under your anger, you killed Silver Blade. Li Mingshan, I really didn't expect that after you killed Silver Blade, you still have the face to ask for compensation. Where is your face? You have the nerve to say this. Hearing Shui Lingzi's harsh criticism, Li Mingshan's face didn't change. He lightly said, Shui Lingzi, don't say these useless things. You injured our godly blade sex disciple, so you must pay for it. Moreover, you have already agreed that you will compensate Silver Blade with a level 25 equipment. Shui Lingzi, you can't deny this matter. With so many people here, I think that even if you want to deny it, I'm afraid you won't be able to. Shui Lingzi shook her head. We did injure Silver Blade, and I did agree to compensate him with a piece of equipment. This is not a problem. If you can make Silver Blade sign a contract with me, then I can still compensate him. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing, but if you can't make Silver Blade speak, then don't blame me for not taking responsibility for this matter. After what happened just now, Li Mingshan's anger had subsided a lot. Although Shui Lingzi's words were very irritating, he still endured it. Li Mingshan knew that this was his last chance. If he lost it because of his anger, then that level 25 equipment would be completely out of his reach. Li Mingshan didn't get angry and lightly said, Shui Lingzi, Silver Blade is our godly blade sex outstanding disciple. He was accidentally killed by me and I'm also very sad. But the reason why he was killed by me, speaking up to here, Li Mingshan slowly raised his finger and pointed at Shui Lingzi, it's all because of you. If you didn't injure Silver Blade, then with his martial arts, how could he not have dodged my attack? So, all of this is your fault. You must take full responsibility for what happened to Silver Blade. After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Shui Lingzi coldly snorted, I'm sorry, but I won't take the blame. Silver Blade was clearly killed by you, so what does it have to do with me? We all know what Silver Blade's martial arts are like. Even if he wasn't injured, I can guarantee that he wouldn't have been able to block your attack. Chapter 580. After listening to Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshan sneered, Shui Lingzi, according to what you said, Yin Dao was injured by you. Are we just going to let it go like this? Shui Lingzi heard this and sighed. Now that Yin Dao is gone, even if I want to give him some compensation, I won't have the chance. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before looking up at the sky and letting out a long sigh. Then she continued, "Let this matter pass." Just as Shui Lingzi's voice fell, Li Mingshui suddenly said, "What if we don't agree?" Shui Lingzi shook her head. "Even if you don't agree, Yin Dao won't be able to come back. I think, don't be so serious, just let it go." Li Mingshui shook his head and said, "No, this matter can't be let go. You beat up our godly knife sect's disciple. If word gets out that we brothers, as the protectors of the godly knife sect, can't get justice for our disciple, then wouldn't we become the laughingstock of the world?" Speaking up to hear, Li Mingshui's tone paused, his eyes flashing as he stared at Shui Lingzi before continuing, "Shui Lingzi, you have to give us an explanation for this matter, otherwise, Speaking up to hear, Li Mingshui grabbed the handle of his saber and continued, "Otherwise, we can only use force to get justice for the godly knife sect's disciple." This time, before Shui Lingzi could speak, Fire Spirit angrily said, "Li Mingshui, do you think we're afraid of you?" Li Mingshui shook his head and lightly said, "I don't know if you're afraid or not, but I can tell you that you're definitely not my opponent. When the time comes, once you're defeated by me, you'll be the one's losing face." After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Shui Lingzi suddenly sneered. She took a step forward and shouted, "Li Mingshui, let me tell you, if we really fight, the one who will lose face won't necessarily be me. If you, the protector of the godly blade sect, lose face in front of so many people, I'd like to see if you still have the face to stay here." Hearing Fire Spirit's words, Li Mingshui's grip on the saber handle tightened and his eyes became sharper. "Fire Spirit, you really want to fight?" Shui Lingzi sneered and shook her head. "Li Mingshui, you have to understand that the one you want to hit is you, not me." Li Mingshui slowly pulled out his blade and stared at Fire Spirit. He said in a deep voice, "Are you going to do something about the silver blade?" Fire Spirit shook his head. "Yin Dao was killed by you guys, so you should be the ones taking care of it. What does it have to do with us?" As soon as the Fire Spirit finished his words, Li Mingshui roared. Then, a dazzling saber radiance flashed in front of him and attacked him. Seeing this, the Fire Spirit jumped in fright. He quickly jumped and dodged the blade. "Li Mingshui, you're too shameless. You always sneak up on me." The Fire Spirit couldn't finish his sentence. Li Mingshui's saber missed, but he didn't stop. A saber light flashed and slashed towards the Fire Spirit. Fire Spirit didn't dare to be careless. He quickly jumped and dodged Li Mingshui's attack. Seeing that the Fire Spirit dodged two of his attacks, Li Mingshui was furious. He suddenly shouted, "Fire Spirit, don't run if you have the guts!" As he spoke, the saber light in front of Li Mingshui suddenly shone brightly. It was like a waterfall that attacked the Fire Spirit. Seeing Li Mingshui's attack, the Fire Spirit was shocked. He knew that Li Mingshui had used all his strength. This wasn't a joke. If it was an attack like the one just now, the biggest advantage was that he didn't use all his strength. Therefore, he could use it freely. Even if the saber hit the enemy's body, he could easily take it back. But if he used all his strength, although the power increased, he couldn't use it freely. This was because this was the price of increasing the power. Since Li Mingshui was serious, the Fire Spirit naturally didn't dare to be careless. He quickly stomped his feet and jumped into the air. Like lightning, he flew over Li Mingshui's head. When he flew over Li Mingshui's head, the Fire Spirit suddenly threw out a punch towards Li Mingshui's head. Li Mingshui sneered. He stepped to the side and tilted his head, dodging the Fire Spirit's attack. Using this force, the saber in his hand suddenly jumped up. It drew an arc in the air and chased after the Fire Spirit in the air. The Fire Spirit's attack missed and he flew far away. But before he landed on the ground, he suddenly felt a chill on his back. He immediately knew that things weren't going well. Li Mingshui's saber was already chasing after the Fire Spirit from behind. But he didn't expect the Fire Spirit to suddenly punch the ground. He once again flew forward like lightning and narrowly dodged Li Mingshui's attack. The fire spirit quickly landed on the ground. Just as he steadied himself, he suddenly realized that his forehead was full of cold sweat. If he didn't dodge quickly, he might have been hit by Li Mingshui's saber. Thinking of this, the fire spirit looked at Li Mingshui in front of him and gritted his teeth. Li Mingshui, do you really want to fight? Li Mingshui raised the saber in his hand. Looking at the sharp blade, he lightly said, Fire spirit, I'll say the same thing. You injured our godly saber sex people. We can't just let it go like this. You must compensate us. Otherwise, we will seek justice for our godly saber sex disciples. After hearing Li Mingshui's words, the fire spirit angrily said, Yin Dao, you were the ones who killed him. Why do you want us to seek justice for you? Li Mingshui, aren't you being a bit too unreasonable? Li Mingshui shook his head. I admit that Yin Dao was killed by us, but the main reason is because of you. At this point, Li Mingshui paused for a moment before continuing. If it weren't for you injuring Silver Knife, how could there have been so much trouble? If it weren't for you injuring Silver Knife, how could he have died for that piece of equipment? In the end, it's all because of you. You are the source of this incident, so you must be responsible for it. Otherwise, I will never let you go. After hearing Li Mingshui's words, the fire spirit was about to speak, but water spirit suddenly spoke up. Li Mingshui, you guys are too shameless. Yin Dao was being unreasonable because he was a madman. We didn't bother with him. I thought that since Yin Dao was killed, there would be no more trouble. I didn't think that your brothers would be the same. Speaking up to here, water spirit paused and sighed before continuing. The reason why Yin Dao is like this is because he's a madman, but you Li brothers are also being unreasonable. Could it be that you're also crazy? Li Mingshui, we still have a lot of things to do. Don't waste any more time. Chapter 581. After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshan's face turned red as he stepped forward and said loudly, Shui Lingzi, we also don't want to do this, but Yin Dao is still a disciple of our godly sword sect. If he was killed like this, as a protector of the godly sword sect, can you just let us stand by and do nothing? Shui Lingzi sighed. Li Mingshan, we've wasted enough time. I think we should settle this matter as soon as possible and not waste any more time. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing. Li Mingshan, I've also wasted enough time. Tell me, how do you want me to compensate you? As long as I can accept the price, I'll compensate you. Let's not waste any more time. As soon as Shui Lingzi finished speaking, Li Mingshui didn't wait for Li Mingshan to speak and said, Shui Lingzi, you and Yin Dao had an agreement. Because of Yin Dao's injuries, you can reward him with a level 25 equipment. Speaking up to here, Li Mingshui paused for a moment before continuing. Shui Lingzi, as long as you compensate us with a level 25 equipment, this matter will be considered over. After hearing Li Mingshui's words, Shui Lingzi sighed and turned to look at Li Mingshan. She bitterly smiled and asked, Li Mingshan, could it be that you also want me to compensate you with a level 25 equipment? Hearing Shui Lingzi's question, Li Mingshan hesitated for a moment before nodding and slowly saying, Shui Lingzi, the conditions were agreed upon by you and Yin Dao. It wasn't what we brothers wanted. Although Yin Dao is no longer here, I think we shouldn't change the conditions that were agreed upon. Speaking up to here, Li Mingshan paused for a moment before continuing. Shui Lingzi, you should follow the conditions that were agreed upon and compensate us with a level 25 equipment. Just as Li Mingshan's voice fell, the grumpy fire spirit snapped. Li Mingshan, Li Mingshui, I think you should just dream. You can have anything in your dreams. After hearing fire spirit's words, Li Mingshan's face turned slightly red. He knew that his actions were not very good, but for the sake of that level 25 equipment, he had to do it. Li Mingshan lightly coughed, then slowly said, Fire spirit, don't be angry at me. When Water Spirit and Silver Knife were talking, you were also there, so you should have heard it. Water Spirit said that he wanted to compensate Silver Knife with a level 25 equipment. It wasn't us brothers who randomly gave a price, so what right do you have to be angry at us? Hearing this, Li Mingshan hurriedly said, "That's right, Fire Spirit, are you deaf? It was clearly Water Spirit who said it, it wasn't us who made the conditions, how can you blame us for it?" At this point, Li Mingshui paused and suddenly sneered before continuing, "Don't tell me that the great Tiangongman's consecrator would go back on his word?" After hearing the Li brothers' words, Fire Spirit was stunned for a moment. He subconsciously turned to look at Water Spirit, and for a moment, he couldn't say anything. The reason why Fire Spirit couldn't refute this was because the Li brothers were right. For some reason, Water Spirit had promised Silver Knife that she would compensate him with a level 25 equipment. This was absolutely true, so Fire Spirit couldn't refute it. Water Spirit also sighed in her heart. The reason why she said that was because she already expected that this level 25 equipment would become a bait, provoking everyone to fight for it. When the time came, she would be the fisherman who reaped the benefits and become the final winner. But she didn't expect that even though Wu Kedi and Li Mingshan started fighting, it wasn't as intense as she imagined. After fighting for a short while, when there were no casualties, they stopped. According to Water Spirit's estimation, for the level 25 equipment, the Wu brothers and the Li brothers would fight until the end. It couldn't be helped that they woke up so quickly. Seeing that Shui Spirit didn't speak, Li Shan's confidence increased a lot. He sneered and said, "Shui Spirit, I'm not wrong. Everyone here heard what I said. You promised Silver Knife that you would give him a level 25 equipment as compensation. Water Spirit, are you going to go back on your words again?" After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Water Spirit was furious. She could see that there were no normal people in the Godly Sword sect. Originally, she thought that since the crazy Silver Knife was killed, this matter would be over. She didn't think that the crazy Li Mingshan would appear. Silver Knife was crazy, but he was easy to deal with because his martial arts weren't high. As long as Water Spirit wanted to, she could teach him a lesson at any time. But the Li brothers were different. Their martial arts weren't below hers. If they didn't listen to reason, then this matter wouldn't be easy to deal with. Thinking of this, Water Spirit sighed. She looked up at Li Mingshan and slowly said, "Li Mingshan, I don't need to say what kind of person Silver Knife is, but are you also that kind of person?" Speaking up to hear, Water Spirit paused for a moment before continuing, "Li Mingshan, don't you know how precious level 25 equipment is? It's not easy for an ordinary person to even see a level 25 equipment, let alone get one. Li Mingshan, where do you want me to find such precious equipment for you? Even if I agree, do you think the Tiangongman will compensate you?" After hearing Water Spirit's words, Li Mingshan couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He was also very clear that asking Water Spirit to compensate for a level 25 equipment was a bit too much. Although Water Spirit was a consecrated of the Tiangongman, Li Mingshan was sure that she didn't have level 25 equipment. In the entire South County, level 25 equipment was very rare. However, Li Mingshan thought about it again. The Tiangongmen were a sect that specialized in forging equipment. If they could get a level 25 equipment, then they would definitely have a way. Although the chances of getting Water Spirit to compensate with a level 25 equipment were slim, as long as there was a chance, Li Mingshan wasn't willing to give it up. Just think about it, if you could have a piece of level 25 equipment, how great would that be? Thinking about having a level 25 equipment, Li Mingshan was very excited. After hearing Water Spirit's words, Li Mingshan pondered for a moment before slowly saying, "Water Spirit, you can't blame me for this matter. It was you and Silver Knife who made the conditions, so we had to follow them." Li Mingshui suddenly said, "Water Spirit, when you talked about the conditions with Silver Knife, were you lying to him?" Speaking up to here, Li Mingshui paused for a moment before continuing. No, you are a consecrated of the Tiangongmen. Why would you lie to a small disciple of the godly knife sect? If you really did that, then wouldn't you be laughed at by the world? Chapter 582. After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before shaking her head. Li Mingshan, don't say any more. Now that Yin Dao is gone, the equipment issue is naturally invalid. Shadowless saw that the two were still talking and couldn't solve the problem, so he slowly stepped forward and said loudly, Li Mingshan, since Yin Dao is no longer here and you are also responsible, why don't we just let this matter go? Everyone should hurry up and deal with this matter. That's the best plan. After hearing Shadowless' words, Shui Lingzi quickly nodded. That's right, Li Mingshan. Even without Yin Dao's level 25 equipment, you still have the 2 level 20 equipment I gave you. Speaking up to here, Water Spirit paused for a moment before continuing. Li Mingshan, I won't compensate you for the level 25 equipment, you should be very clear about this. I think it's best if we don't hurt each other's feelings. Hearing this, Li Mingshan shook his head and sneered. If we just let it go like this, then what about Yin Dao's matter? Once his family asks, how are we going to answer? Shadowless quickly said, Li Mingshan, didn't Shui Lingzi give us 2 level 20 equipment? Isn't that good too? Li Mingshan shook his head. Shadowless, this has nothing to do with you. I hope you won't meddle in other people's business. After hearing Li Shan's words, Shadowless was stunned for a moment. Then, he became angry out of humiliation. Li Shan, I was kind enough to help you solve this problem, but you still want to talk back. Don't you think that's too much? This time, before Li Mingshan could speak, Li Mingshui spoke up first. Shadowless, it's not that my big brother is going too far. It's just that this matter shouldn't be handled by you. After hearing the two's words, Shadowless sighed. Fine, I won't meddle in this matter. If you want to fight, then fight. After saying this, Shadowless took a few steps back and put some distance between Li Mingshan and the others, indicating that he wouldn't meddle in this matter. Seeing that Shadowless left, Li Mingshan turned to Shui Lingzi and slowly said, Shui Lingzi, this matter, how do you think we should solve it? Shui Lingzi shook her head. No matter what, I won't compensate you with level 25 equipment. It's not that I don't want to, but I can't. I'm sure you know this. After listening to Water Spirit's words, Li Shan couldn't help but frown. After a while, he slowly said, Water Spirit, then tell me, what kind of equipment can you equip a silver blade with? Shui Lingzi thought for a moment before slowly saying, a level 15 equipment, that's my bottom line. If you're still not satisfied, then this matter. Level 15 equipment? As soon as Water Spirit's voice fell, Li Mingshui cried out in alarm, Water Spirit, how dare you? Silver Knife's condition was clearly that level 25 equipment. How did it become a level 15 equipment? I absolutely won't agree. After hearing Shadowless Lingzi Yu Shadowless Mingshan's Shadowless Lingzi had thinking about how the level 25 equipment he was about to obtain had suddenly become a level 15 equipment, Li Shan felt a sense of loss in his heart, making him feel as if his heart was being clenched. It was as if the original price was a piece of gold, but in the end, the price was only a copper coin. The difference between the two pieces of equipment was like heaven and earth. Li Mingshan couldn't accept it. Li Mingshan sighed, Shui Lingzi, if you were me, would you agree? Hearing Li Mingshan's question, Shui Lingzi nodded without hesitation. Li Mingshan, even if it's only level 15 equipment, it's like it fell from the sky. This is an unexpected surprise, what's there to be unhappy about? Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing, Li Mingshan, a piece of equipment that fell from the sky, although it's not the level 25 equipment you're thinking about, it's still a pleasant surprise. Am I wrong? After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshan clenched his teeth. Shui Lingzi, asking you to take out a level 25 equipment might be a bit difficult for you, but you can't lower the price so much. Directly changing a level 25 equipment to a level 15 equipment, isn't that a bit inappropriate? Shui Lingzi shook her head and suddenly sneered. Li Mingshan, you've been in Jianghu for a long time. Have you ever heard of compensation for injuring someone? After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshan was at a loss for words. He had been in Jianghu for a long time, but he had never heard of this kind of thing. Whether it was the two sides agreeing to a duel or enemies enraging each other, in short, after a fight, there were very few people who wanted compensation. Maybe there were, but the number was really too small. Most of the time, they hated their own martial arts for not being good enough and losing to the enemy. At that time, what the loser wanted the most was not how to get compensation from the other side, but how to improve their martial arts to get revenge. There really weren't many people like him. At the beginning, the reason why Li Mingshan didn't immediately appear was because of this reason. Even if he wanted compensation, he couldn't bring himself to do it. Therefore, he didn't come out until Silver Knife couldn't hold on any longer. Only then did he come out to uphold justice for Silver Knife. Now that Silver Knife had been killed by him, it was really not right for him to still be here. Seeing that Li Mingshan didn't want to speak, Shui Lingzi smiled and said, Li Mingshan, in fact, level 15 equipment is also very good. Although it's a bit different from level 25 equipment, it's still better than nothing, right? Hearing Water Spirit's words, Li Mingshan clenched his teeth and said, Water Spirit, level 15 equipment is too low. How about this? I don't want that level 25 equipment. I'll just give you a level 20 equipment and let's call it quits. Shui Lingzi, what do you think? Shui Lingzi shook her head. Li Mingshan, we're all smart people. A level 20 equipment is very precious. Do you think I'll compensate you for something like Silver Knife? Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing. Li Mingshan, the reason why I'm compensating you with a level 15 equipment is not because of Silver Knife, but because I don't want to hurt our friendship over such a small matter. Li Mingshan, I admit that Silver Knife was injured, but the one who killed him was you. If we really want to find out who's responsible for this matter, it would seem that your responsibility is greater. So, I think we should both take a step back and call it quits. What do you think? After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshan couldn't help but frown even more. He knew that as long as he nodded, he would get the level 15 equipment and this matter would be completely settled. However, Li Mingshan still felt a bit unwilling. He could have gotten a level 25 equipment, but now he only got a level 15 equipment. Chapter 583. After a while, Li Shan clenched his teeth and nodded. Water Spirit, since you don't want to hurt our relationship, then I won't make things difficult for you. 2 level 15 equipment, as long as you agree, this matter can be considered settled. After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Shui Lingzi's brows wrinkled. Li Mingshan, what I just said is already very clear. I didn't give you the equipment to compensate for the silver blade, but because I don't want to hurt the relationship between us, so I took the initiative to take a step back. But if you continue to be so aggressive, then I have no other choice but to cancel this matter. Hearing this, Li Shan sighed. Water Spirit, I also don't want to, but you should know that a level 15 equipment can only be worn by the two of us. Speaking up to here, Li Shan paused and turned to look at Li Mingshui before continuing. Water Spirit, the two of us brothers are here. Tell me, which one of us should wear the level 15 equipment you gave us? After hearing Li Shan's words, Water Spirit was stunned. She didn't think that Li Shan would have such a ridiculous reason. Water Spirit wanted to grab Li Shan and ask him, even if the two of them had equipment, then what about their wives and children's equipment? Thinking up to here, Water Spirit said with some displeasure, Li Shan, I don't care who wears the equipment, it's your own business. Speaking up to here, Water Spirit paused for a moment before continuing. To be honest, even if I compensate you with this level 15 equipment, it's still my personal item, and I'm just trying to make friends with you. But if you want to do this, then wouldn't I be giving you this equipment for nothing and you'll even complain? After hearing Water Spirit's words, Li Shan was a bit annoyed. Water Spirit, I've already taken a step back and won't haggle with you about the level 25 equipment. Can't you take a step back and give me 2 level 15 equipment? Water Spirit shook her head. Whether it's level 15 equipment or level 25 equipment, they don't just fall from the sky. They're all obtained through my hard work. Now that I'm willing to give you the level 15 equipment that I worked so hard to obtain, I think I'm being very sincere. If you're still not satisfied, then I can only say sorry. Speaking up to here, Water Spirit's eyes suddenly lit up as she smiled and said, Li Mingshan, if you feel that this level 15 equipment isn't easy to distribute, then I have an idea. How about I give you 2 level 10 equipment? That way you 2 brothers can each have 1. Nonsense. As soon as Water Spirit's voice fell, Li Mingshui angrily shouted, Water Spirit, you dare to say such words? You reduced our level 25 equipment to level 15, and now you want to give us 2 level 10 equipment? Speaking up to here, Li Mingshui's tone paused. He took a few deep breaths to suppress the anger in his heart before continuing, Water Spirit, don't go too far. Do you think that us brothers are easy to bully? After hearing Li Mingshui's words, Water Spirit hurriedly shook her head. Li Mingshui, you misunderstood. When I said I'll give you 2 level 10 equipment, I meant 2 pieces. My purpose is to let you 2 brothers distribute them. Speaking up to here, Water Spirit's tone paused for a moment before continuing, Li Mingshui, if you don't want to, then it's fine. I can also give you 2 level 15 equipment. After hearing Water Spirit's words, Li Mingshan's eyes flashed as he thought about how to solve this problem. In fact, at the very beginning, that level 25 equipment did attract Li Mingshan. He also understood that he would never wear that equipment. Although that equipment's defense was amazing, it wouldn't bring him any safety. On the contrary, it would bring him a lot of danger. So, even if you got a level 25 equipment, the final result would be to give it away or sell it. However, this level 15 equipment was different. He definitely wouldn't sell it, so he could only wear it. If the equipment was sold, or if there were any benefits, the 2 brothers could divide it equally. But if there was only 1 level 15 equipment, how would they divide it? Although level 10 equipment was low, it was only relatively speaking. Level 10 equipment was actually very good, but compared to level 25 equipment it was a bit unbearable. According to Li Mingshan and Li Mingshan's status, wearing a level 10 equipment was just right. More importantly, Water Spirit would give them 2 level 10 equipment, so there was no need to divide it. Thinking up to here, Li Mingshan looked up at Water Spirit. Water Spirit, since it's like this, then 2 level 10 equipment. Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Water Spirit was suddenly overjoyed. Li Mingshan, good, this matter is settled then. Li Shan silently nodded, but there was an inexplicable feeling in his heart. He kept thinking about it. From that level 25 equipment to 2 pieces of level 10 equipment, the difference was like heaven and earth. This was also because Li Mingshan had a strong mind. People like Silver Blade would have already become abnormal because of this kind of joy. Now that the matter had been satisfactorily resolved, Shui Lingzi felt as if a huge stone had been lifted from his heart. He looked around and said with a smile, "Thank you, everyone. I will fulfill my promise as soon as possible. Please don't worry, I, Shui Lingzi, am not someone who goes back on his words." Speaking up to here, Water Spirit's tone paused. He once again cupped his fist towards everyone and continued, "It's not early anymore, I will now take the people from Kikiaman away. We will meet again someday." After saying this, Water Spirit turned his head and gave Fire Spirit a look. The two of them then walked towards Kikyaman, who knew that when the two of them took a few steps, they heard Shadowless roar. "Wait, do you want to leave just like this?" Hearing Shadowless's words, Water Spirit turned his head in confusion. "Shadowless, do you have something else to say?" Shadowless nodded. "Water Spirit, the conditions we talked about just now, with just one sentence from you, I don't feel reassured. I think, why don't we make a contract so that everyone can rest assured?" Speaking up to here, he paused and turned to look at the people around him before continuing. "Everyone, let's have Shui Lingzi write a contract for all of us, what do you think?" Naturally, no one had any objections to Shadowless's suggestion. Although Water Spirit said that each family would get 2 level 20 equipment, especially Li Mingshan who would get 2 more level 10 equipment, this was only a verbal agreement. However, this was only a verbal agreement. Everyone was still worried. Now that they heard Shadowless's suggestion, they all agreed with him. Wu Kadi loudly said, "Shadowless is right, we should make a contract." Chapter 584. Hearing everyone's words, Shui Lingzi couldn't help but frown. His original plan was to bring back Kikyaman's people first. If Kikyaman's secret was real, then creating a few level 20 equipment would be a very easy matter. But if it was fake, then it wouldn't be so easy. One could just imagine how difficult it was to forge a piece of level 20 equipment with level 20 fine gold and deep sea frost body. Shui Lingzi had already thought it through. If Kikyaman's secret was fake, then he would at most pay them half of the equipment, or even not pay them a single piece. At that time, as long as the two brothers disappeared, these people would naturally have no evidence and the equipment issue would be left unsettled. But if there was a written agreement, then it wouldn't be so easy. As long as they had the written agreement, even if the Water Spirit brothers were killed, as long as these people took the written agreement to the Heaven's Craftsman Gate, the Heaven's Craftsman Gate would take out 6 pieces of level 20 equipment for the sake of their reputation. It was because of this reason that Shui Lingzi agreed to pay them 6 level 20 equipment. Naturally, he wanted to avoid this debt at the crucial moment. So, a written agreement couldn't be written. Once it was written, then there would be no turning back. If Kikyaman's secret was fake, then the Tiangongman's losses would be too great. Not only would the Tiangongman suffer a great loss, but it would also be impossible for Shui Lingzi and his brother to stay in the Tiangongman. Thinking up to here, Shui Lingzi forced a smile and waved his hand. "Time is of the essence right now, so I think we should just forget about this. Don't you even trust me? You can ask around. I, Shui Lingzi, always keep my word and have never lied to my friends." Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Shadowless shook his head. "Shui Lingzi, you may not have lied to your friends, but we are not your friends, so you might lie to us." Shui Lingzi shook his head. "Brother Shadowless, don't worry. As long as I promise you, I will definitely give you the 2 level 20 equipment." Shadowless shook his head again. "Shui Lingzi, forget it. My memory isn't that good, so I might forget. Wouldn't that be a big loss? I think it's better for us to write a written agreement." Shui Lingzi shook his head and pointed at the sky. "Brother Shadowless, you can see that it's getting late. We've been researching since last night, so I want to bring them back as soon as possible. What if they think something happened to me and come to rescue me? That wouldn't be good for both of us." Shadowless waved his hand. "It doesn't matter since we're all friends, even if they come, we can just drink together. Maybe we can even deepen our friendship's relationship." Hearing Shadowless's words, Shadowless's, "Brother Shadowless, what are you saying? Don't tell me you don't want the agreement." At this point, Wu Kadi paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Shui Lingzi to reply and continued. "Shui Lingzi, could it be that you never planned to give us the equipment? You're just trying to trick us. Shui Lingzi, am I right?" As soon as Wu Kadi's voice fell, before Shui Lingzi could reply, Li Mingshan had already arrived in front of everyone and shouted. Shui Lingzi, I already promised that I won't take your level 25 equipment. If you don't even give us the equipment you promised, then I won't agree. Seeing the three aggressively walking in front of her, Shui Lingzi couldn't help but frown. At this moment, she suddenly hoped that the three people in front of her would suddenly become like silver knives. Everyone, it's not that I don't want to give you the agreement, but as you can see, it's getting late. We came in the middle of the night, but look at what time it is now, it's almost noon. Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing, Don't worry, I won't go back on my word. It's mainly because time is tight and I can't wait any longer. How about this, you guys go to the town in front and wait for me. As soon as I bring the Kikyaman people back, I'll immediately come back and give you the agreement. After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Shadowless loudly said, No, if you want the agreement, then do it now. We don't have much time to accompany you to the town in front. Water Spirit heard this and quickly waved her hand. Wu Kudi, you're right. Time is of the essence right now and everyone is very busy. How about this, everyone can go about their business first and after we're done, I'll write a receipt for everyone. What do you think? After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Shadowless immediately shook his head. Nothing, why do I feel like you want to go back on your word? Shui Lingzi shook her head. Brother Shadowless, don't worry, I'm not that kind of person. As long as I promise to give you the equipment, I'll definitely give it to you. Don't worry. Shadowless shook his head. Shui Lingzi, no matter what you say, I still think that it's better for you to write the agreement. Shadowless paused for a moment before continuing. Shui Lingzi, it's not that I don't believe you, but this matter is very important. 2 level 20 equipment might be insignificant to you Tiangongman, but in my eyes, it's very important. I can't afford to lose it. So, you should hurry up and write the agreement so that we can rest assured. After hearing Shadowless's words, Shui Lingzi quickly shook her head. It's getting late and we don't have a pen and paper. If we go find them, we'll waste more time. How about this, you guys go ahead and find the pen and paper while we bring the people back. When you find the pen and paper, we'll be back soon and we'll immediately give you the agreement. We won't go back on our word. As soon as Shui Lingzi finished speaking, Li Mingshan smiled and said, Shui Lingzi, so you're worried about not having a pen and paper. Don't worry, since we don't have a pen and paper, I'm sure that the people from Kikyaman will have them. As long as we borrow their pen and paper, we'll be able to quickly write the agreement. After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Wu Kadi immediately clapped his hands. That's right, the people from Kikyaman are moving this time, so they'll definitely have them. As long as we ask, they'll definitely send them over. Hearing the two's words, Shui Lingzi secretly complained. She quickly thought about how to solve this problem. She definitely couldn't write the agreement. If she did, then she'd be shackling herself. If she wanted to break free from this shackle, then she could only use equipment to exchange for it. Chapter 585. Shui Lingzi didn't want to write a contract, but Wu Kadi and the other two weren't willing to let her. Shui Lingzi was desperately trying to think of a way to refuse the request of these three. Seeing Shui Lingzi frowning, Li Shan suddenly sneered. Shui Lingzi, don't tell me that you didn't want to write a contract with us in the first place. You just want to renege on the debt. Shui Lingzi shook her head. Li Shan, why would you think that? Am I, Shui Lingzi, the kind of person who would renege on a debt? Li Shan sighed. Shui Lingzi, I hope you aren't. Because of these few pieces of equipment, our godly sword sect's disciple Yin Dao has already died. I also took the initiative to drop my level 25 equipment to level 10 equipment. My goal is to not make things difficult for you. But if you still want to renege on the debt, then let me tell you, I, Li Shan, will not let you go. Hearing Li Shan's words, Shui Lingzi hurriedly waved her hand. I won't, before Shui Lingzi could finish her words, Li Shan waved his hand and interrupted. Shui Lingzi, since you won't, then that's fine. Speaking up to here, Li Shan paused and turned to look at one of the godly sword sect's disciples. Go to Kikyaman and borrow some paper, ink, and paper. Hearing Li Shan's words, Shui Lingzi's face suddenly changed. She wanted to stop him, but seeing Wu Kedi and Shadowless looking at her, she quickly swallowed the words she wanted to say. Not long after, the godly sword sect's disciples brought over a pen, paper, and a small porcelain bottle from Kikyaman and handed it to Li Shan. Li Mingshan placed the paper on a relatively flat place on the ground and handed the pen to Shui Lingzi. Shui Lingzi, you can write it now. Shui Lingzi silently took the pen handed over by Li Mingshan and suddenly said, Don't you guys trust me that much? Shadowless nodded. This is a serious matter. It's not that we don't trust you, but after you write the contract, our hearts will be at ease. Wu Kudi was also very clear that no matter how good Shui Spirit's words were, there was no written agreement. As long as Shui Spirit's face was thick, he could renege on his debt at any time. Only with Water Spirit's written agreement would this matter be settled, and he would be able to obtain the 2 level 20 equipment. Although Wu Ku was regretful that he didn't get the level 25 equipment, it couldn't be helped. The 2 pieces of level 20 equipment were enough to make him extremely happy. Li Shan couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He was sighing over the level 25 equipment. If he hadn't been overconfident and let Wu Kedi mess around, the level 25 equipment would have already been in his hands. Water Spirit and Silver Knife reached an agreement and agreed to compensate Silver Knife with a piece of level 25 equipment. Thinking of this, Li Shan's heart felt like it was being twisted by a knife. He wished he could dig it out and see what kind of mistake he made to make such a stupid decision. Now there were only 2 pieces of level 10 equipment left. Among the crowd, the one with the worst mood was naturally Shui Lingzi. Because Li Shan placed the white paper on the ground, Shui Lingzi could only sit on the ground if she wanted to write on it. Shui Lingzi sat on the ground while Li Shan and the others looked at her from the side. This made Shui Lingzi feel like she was signing something, which was extremely uncomfortable. Seeing that Shui Lingzi wasn't willing to write, Shadowless hurriedly urged, Shui Lingzi, hurry up and write. It's already late and you're in a hurry to go back. What are you waiting for? Don't you want to write? Wu Kudi also sneered, Shui Lingzi, do you really want to renege on your debt? Li Shan also sneered, Shui Lingzi, since the agreement has been set, you can't renege on your debt. Hurry up and write. Hearing the words of the 3, Shui Lingzi could no longer suppress the anger in his heart. He jumped up, threw the pen in his hand far away, and shouted angrily. What's wrong with you people? You don't trust me, right? I'll tell you, I don't trust you either. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing, Since you're forcing me, then I'll let this matter go. I won't write a contract, you can do whatever you want. Hearing Shui Lingzi's roar, Li Shan and the others were stunned for a moment before looking at each other. Shadowless looked at the white paper on the ground and then looked at the furious Shui Lingzi. He suddenly turned to look at Wu Kudi and blinked. Wu Kudi saw Shadowless blinking at him and suddenly woke up. He pondered for a moment before gently nodding. Shadowless saw this and nodded with a smile before turning to Li Shan and blinking again. Li Shan saw that Wu Kudi and Shadowless were blinking at him. He wasn't an idiot and immediately understood. He turned to look at Shui Lingzi and gently nodded. Seeing the mysterious actions of the 3, Shui Lingzi was taken aback and cold sweat dripped down her forehead. What do you want? Hearing Shui Lingzi's question, Shadowless shook his head and lightly said, Shui Lingzi, we don't want to do anything, we just want to see what you want. Shui Lingzi heard this and suddenly said loudly, Today's matter is over, I won't take away Kikyaman's people. Shut up. Before Shui Lingzi finished, she was interrupted by Li Shanshan's shout, "Shui Lingzi, who do you think we are? Do you think we can do whatever you want?" Speaking up to here, Li Shan paused for a moment, but then he didn't wait for Shui Lingzi to reply and continued. "Shui Lingzi, we've been playing with you for an entire night. Do you think we'll let this matter go just because you say so? Do you think it's that simple? Who do you think we are?" Shadowless sneered and said, "Shui Lingzi, I'll tell you the truth. If you obediently write a contract today, this matter will be over." Shadowless paused for a moment before continuing, "Shui Lingzi, if you don't, then don't blame us for being impolite." Hearing what Shadowless said, the fire spirit on the side was furious. He took a step forward and shouted, "Shadowless, what do you want?" Wu Kudi sneered, "Fire spirit, you've been playing with us for an entire night. It's time to pay the price. Today's contract, you'll have to write it whether you want to or not." After hearing Wu Kudi's words, the fire spirit immediately laughed out loud. He pointed at Wu Kudi and said loudly, "Wu Kudi, what do you want? Do you dare to make a move?" Wu Kudi took a step forward and said coldly, "Fire spirit, if you don't write it, then we won't be polite." Hearing Wu Kudi's words, Shadowless also stepped forward. Chapter 586. Water Spirit subconsciously took a few steps back, but Fire Spirit didn't notice. He suddenly shouted, "Shadowless, if I don't write it, what can you do to me?" After hearing Fire Spirit's words, Shadowless gave Wu Kudi and Li Mingshan a look. Seeing that the two understood, he coldly said, "Fire Spirit, I'll give you one more chance. Are you going to write it or not?" Fire Spirit laughed coldly. "I've never seen someone make someone write a contract like this. I want to see what you can do to me if I don't write it." Just as Fire Spirit finished speaking, he heard Shadowless snort coldly. In the next moment, Shadowless was already throwing a punch at him. Seeing that Shadowless dared to sneak attack him, Fire Spirit sneered. However, a moment later, cold sweat started appearing on his forehead. Li Mingshan and Wu Kudi, one on the left and the other on the right, had already blocked his escape routes behind Shadowless. "You dare!" The Fire Spirit could only roar as he stomped on the ground. Like a bolt of lightning, he leaped into the sky. Shadowless and the other two were attacking from three sides. No matter if Fire Spirit dodged left or right or faced Shadowless head-on, he would be in a passive position. His only chance of survival was above them. Shadowless sneered when he saw Fire Spirit jump into the air. His fist changed direction and chased after Fire Spirit in the air. The three of them changed in an instant. Water Spirit, who was behind Fire Spirit, saw that the situation was bad and quickly threw a punch at Shadowless, wanting to help Fire Spirit. However, Shadowless had expected this. His attack on Fire Spirit was just a feint. Seeing Water Spirit rush over, Shadowless took back his fist and threw another punch at Water Spirit. Seeing the sudden attack of the three, Shui Lingzi roared and increased the strength of her fist, wanting to defeat Shadowless in one fell swoop. Shadowless's Qigong was very good, but his fist strength was definitely not Water Spirit's opponent. If their fists collided, Shadowless would be the one at a disadvantage. Just as Water Spirit and Shadowless's fists were about to collide, Water Spirit, who had been paying attention to Fire Spirit's movements, suddenly had a change in expression. Wu Kudi and Li Mingshan, one on the left and one on the right, jumped up from the ground and chased after the Fire Spirit in the air like two bolts of lightning. Seeing this, Water Spirit was shocked. Seeing that it was too late, she could only roar and throw a punch at Shadowless. She wanted to finish Shadowless as soon as possible so that she could help Fire Spirit out of this situation. However, it was too late. The Fire Spirit in the air also knew that things were not going well. His eyes suddenly widened as he let out a low roar. His fists split into left and right as he attacked Wu Kudi and Li Mingshan. Water Spirit and Shadowless's fists, Shadowless and Shadowless's fists. Shadowless was sent flying far away. Shui Lingzi was also forced back 2 or 3 steps by the force of the collision. She barely managed to stabilize herself. Then, she stomped on the ground again and shot towards Wu Kedi like a cannonball. But it was too late. Wu Kedi and Li Mingshan attacked from both sides. The Fire Spirit wanted to block one of their attacks, but their martial arts were about the same. Adding on the sudden sneak attack from Wu Kedi and Li Mingshan, the Fire Spirit panicked and was forced to fight back. Naturally, the strength of his fists would be weaker. When the three's fists collided, Fire Spirit let out a muffled groan. He quickly landed on the ground, and before he could stabilize himself, he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Water Spirit was so angry that her eyes were about to burst. Her fists were about to reach Wu Kedi. Wu Kedi and Li Mingshan had joined forces to heavily injure Fire Spirit. Before he could feel proud, he felt a gust of wind coming from the side. He was shocked and quickly waved his arms to block this attack, but it was too late. Water Spirit Z caught Wu Kedi off guard, and her fist landed on Wu Kedi's rib. Shui Lingzi's punch was filled with anger, so how could it be a small matter? Wu Kedi only felt his side being hit by a huge force, and a heart-wrenching pain spread through his body. It caused his stomach to churn, and he was also sent flying far away. Wu Kedi tumbled in the air and landed on the ground. Then, he sat up and spat out a mouthful of blood. Water Spirit saw that Fire Spirit was vomiting blood and was furious. She roared and threw another punch at Li Mingshan, who had just landed on the ground. Li Mingshan saw that Wu Kedi was sent flying and was already prepared. Before Water Spirit could rush over, he grabbed the handle of his saber and pulled it out. In the next moment, a saber light appeared and blocked in front of Water Spirit. Although Shui Lingzi was angry, she also knew how powerful Li Mingshan's saber was. Water Spirit saw that Li Mingshan had already pulled out his saber and quickly dodged. She went around the dazzling saber light and attacked Li Mingshan from the side. With his saber in hand, Li Mingshan's spirit soared. Seeing Shui Lingzi attacking him, he wasn't afraid at all. He simply flicked his saber back, preparing to block Shui Lingzi's attack. Li Mingshan had just pulled back his saber and was about to block Water Spirit's fist when he suddenly heard a roar and a gust of wind. Li Mingshan was shocked and didn't care about Water Spirit anymore. He took 2 steps back and dragged his saber. However, it was too late. The Fire Spirit had already climbed up from the ground. His eyes were glaring as if they were about to spit fire. He waved his fists and attacked from the front. Li Mingshan wanted to block again, but it was too late. He could only use his other fist to meet Fire Spirit's attack. Seeing that Li Shan only cared about blocking the Fire Spirit Z, Water Spirit Z sneered. She suddenly accelerated and rushed towards Li Shan. Before he could react, she immediately threw out a punch towards Li Shan. Li Mingshan heard the wind whistling around him and knew that it was not good. But since he was facing Fire Spirit, he could only wave his saber to block Water Spirit's attack. Fire Spirit's attack arrived as well. Their fists collided, and Fire Spirit cried out in pain as he took 2 steps back. Although Fire Spirit was forced back, Li Mingshan was not in a good condition. His saber hand was hit by Water Spirit's fist. It was so painful that he almost threw his saber away. Seeing this, Water Spirit was overjoyed. She rushed forward and continued to chase Li Mingshan. Seeing Li Mingshan retreat, Shui Lingzi hurriedly threw out a punch. But just as her fist was thrown out, she felt a cold light coming from the side. Water Spirit knew that this was not good. She quickly jumped up and wanted to dodge the attack. However, Li Mingshui sneered. How could it be so easy to dodge this attack? Li Mingshui turned his wrist and the saber light flew up. Chapter 587. Water Spirit had just jumped up when she felt a chill in her arm. Then, intense pain came from her arm. Ah! Water Spirit let out a pitiful cry as she leapt into the air, somersaulting to one side. Li Mingshui didn't want to let her go. Seeing that the blade had only injured Water Spirit's arm, his eyes turned cold. He quickly charged at Water Spirit, who had just landed. Water Spirit's arm was in pain, and seeing Li Mingshui coming at her, she had no choice but to dodge to the side and dodge Li Mingshui's attack. Although Shui Lingzi managed to dodge Li Mingshui's attack, Li Mingshui didn't want to let Shui Lingzi go. Seeing Shui Lingzi retreating to the side, Li Mingshui stomped his foot and his rushing figure came to an abrupt stop. The blade in his hand swept towards Shui Lingzi. Fire Spirit's martial arts were about the same as Li Mingshan's, but Fire Spirit was already heavily injured. That punch from the two of them had actually forced Fire Spirit back. Fire Spirit suppressed the anger in his stomach. When he was about to chase after Li Shan again, he suddenly felt something was wrong. Shadowless was already silently running towards him. If it was a normal time, Fire Spirit wouldn't be afraid of Shadowless. Although Shadowless Qinggong was high, it was still weaker than Fire Spirit. Fire Spirit felt uncomfortable in his stomach and could only grit his teeth and dodge Shadowless's attack. At this time, although Fire Spirit dodged Shadowless's attack, he suddenly heard a cold laugh from beside him. He quickly turned around and saw Wu Ketian swinging his walking stick at him. Seeing this, Fire Spirit was so angry that his eyes were about to explode. These three groups of people were actually attacking together. Wu Ketian, I'll fight you to the death. Fire Spirit roared and suddenly stomped on the ground. His body was like lightning as he charged at Wu Ketian. Seeing Fire Spirit charging at him like a mad tiger, Wu Ketian was a bit regretful. When he charged up, he intentionally coughed because he didn't want to have too much of a grudge with Fire Spirit. However, seeing Fire Spirit in such a state, Wu Ketian knew that his efforts were in vain. He quickly waved his dragonhead walking stick and smashed it towards Fire Spirit. The Fire Spirit seemed to have gone crazy. He raised his left arm and swung it at Wu Ketian's dragon head cane. He didn't stop as he roared and threw another punch at Wu Ketian. Seeing Fire Spirit fighting so recklessly, Wu Ketian was stunned for a moment. However, he was only stunned for a moment before he lost his great opportunity. Ah! Huo Lingzi and Wu Ketian both screamed and flew backwards. Fire Spirit took a few steps back and felt his numb arm suddenly become painful. It was so painful that he screamed at the sky. Wu Ketian was punched in the stomach by the Fire Spirit and retreated 4 or 5 steps. Then, he sat on the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. Wu Kudi saw that his big brother was beaten to the point of vomiting, so he immediately flew into a rage. He didn't care about his own injuries as he jumped up and rushed towards Fire Spirit. Wu Kudi had just taken 2 steps when a figure appeared in front of Fire Spirit faster than him. While Fire Spirit was in unbearable pain, the figure punched Fire Spirit's stomach. Ah! Fire Spirit was hit by Shadowless's punch. He screamed and flew into the air. He fell 7 or 8 meters away. Although Fire Spirit was in extreme pain from the fall, he knew that he had to stand up. There were 6 of them and only 2 of them. If he didn't stand up, he might not be able to stand up again. Fire Spirit endured the pain and stood up with a roar. As soon as he stood up, he saw Wu Kedi madly charging at him. Seeing that it was too late to dodge, the Fire Spirit could only roar and wave his good fist to meet Wu Kedi's attack. Ah! Wu Kudi and Fire Spirit's fists collided. Both of them let out a miserable cry at the same time, and both of them were pushed back. Both of them were heavily injured. Although Fire Spirit was at a greater disadvantage from this attack, Wu Kedi's stomach was still churning from the impact. Before Fire Spirit could stabilize himself, he saw Shadowless rushing towards him with a cold smile. Fire Spirit knew that this was bad. He quickly tried his best to dodge Shadowless's fist. Then, he kicked Shadowless's side. Shadowless's body turned and appeared beside Fire Spirit. Before he turned around, his fist landed on Fire Spirit's waist. Fire Spirit screamed in pain and staggered a few steps forward before lying on the ground. Seeing that Fire Spirit was no longer moving, Shadowless didn't chase after him. He turned around and slowly walked towards Fire Spirit. Shadowless came close to Fire Spirit and stopped. He looked at Fire Spirit, who was lying on the ground with his eyes closed and panting. Shadowless suddenly sneered. Fire Spirit, if you agreed to our request, we wouldn't have to do this. Fire Spirit was lying on the ground and Shui Spirit wasn't in a good state either. One of Shui Spirit's arms was cut by Li Ming Shui. Their martial arts were on par with each other. With Shui Spirit's injury, her martial arts dropped a lot. Shui Spirit was in danger from being chased by Li Ming Shui. There were a few times where she was almost hit by Li Ming Shui. Shui Lingzi, who was dodging with all her might, suddenly discovered that Li Mingshan was also slowly standing up and walking over to her. Seeing this, Shui Spirit was shocked. She couldn't handle Li Ming Shui alone. With the addition of Li Mingshan, Shui Spirit knew that she would lose for sure. Seeing Li Ming Shui's blade coming, Shui Spirit dodged to the side. According to the previous method, Shui Spirit should retreat after dodging. But this time, Shui Spirit didn't retreat. She knew that if she continued to dodge, she would lose for sure when Li Mingshan came over. Thinking of this, Shui Lingzi clenched her teeth and took a step forward. Taking advantage of the fact that Li Ming Shui was caught off guard, she rushed into his saber light. Li Ming Shui saw that the situation wasn't good and quickly pulled back his blade. Shui Spirit gritted her teeth and roared. Ignoring the pain in her arms, she punched out with both fists towards Li Ming Shui. Li Ming Shui's blade was outside, and it was impossible to dodge Shui Spirit, who had rushed into the blade light. He could only clench his teeth and quickly pull back his blade towards Shui Spirit's back. He hoped that Shui Spirit would retreat from the attack range. But Li Ming Shui was wrong. Shui Spirit knew that there were too many enemies. If they didn't make a move, no matter how strong they were, they would lose in the end. Thinking of this, Shui Lingzi felt a chill run down his spine, but he still punched towards Li Ming Shui. Chapter 588. Li Mingshan, who was walking over, saw Shui Lingzi's vicious attack and quickly rushed over, but it was too late. In just an instant, Shui Lingzi's fists smashed into Li Ming Shui's body. Taking advantage of the moment when Li Ming Shui's figure was knocked to the side, Shui Lingzi borrowed the momentum to rush forward. The reason why Shui Lingzi did this was because she wanted to dodge Li Ming Shui's blade, but the distance between them was too close. Although Shui Lingzi was very fast, she was still hit by Li Ming Shui's blade. Although it didn't hit her, it still left a long gash. Shui Lingzi felt a sharp pain on her back and screamed as she rushed forward. Li Ming Shui took Shui Lingzi's two fists head-on and spat out 2 mouthfuls of blood. His body softly fell down. Seeing that Li Ming Shui was knocked down, Li Mingshan didn't chase after Shui Lingzi and quickly went to check on Li Ming Shui. Shui, how are you? Are you okay? Shui Lingzi stabilized her body and felt a warm current flowing down her back. She knew she was injured. On the other side, seeing that Fire Spirit didn't answer, Shadowless couldn't help but frown. He took 2 steps forward and said in a low voice, "Fire Spirit, hurry up and agree to our conditions, we'll naturally stop." When Shadowless was not far away from Fire Spirit's eyebrows suddenly twitched. In an instant, Fire Spirit suddenly jumped up from the ground and let out a miserable roar. He threw a punch at Shadowless. The two were too close and Shadowless didn't expect Fire Spirit to suddenly ambush him. It wasn't Shadowless's fault, but Fire Spirit's injuries were too heavy. At the beginning, Fire Spirit was already injured, then he took a few more heavy blows. The worst part was that his arm was broken when he used it to block Wu Ketian's dragon head cane. Then he took a punch from Shadowless. According to Shadowless's estimation, Fire Spirit shouldn't be able to stand up after taking so many heavy blows, which was why he dared to come so close. But he never expected Fire Spirit to have such strong fighting strength. Even with such heavy injuries, he could still ambush Shadowless. Shadowless didn't even have time to dodge before he was sent flying by Fire Spirit's punch. While he was still in the air, Shadowless spat out a few mouthfuls of blood and screamed as he landed a dozen meters away. After sending Shadowless flying with a punch, Shui Lingzi had no more strength and softly sat on the ground. Wu Kadi, who was knocked back, wanted to attack Fire Spirit again, but when he saw Shadowless, who wasn't injured at all, rush over, he gave up on the idea. Wu Kadi was about to heal his injuries when he suddenly heard a scream. He saw Shadowless being hit far away by Fire Spirit. He was shocked. He didn't care about his injuries and quickly walked toward Fire Spirit. The Fire Spirit opened his eyes wide as he stared at Wu Kadi, who was walking over, and shouted sternly. Wu, Shadowless, Wu, Shadowless, Wu, Shadowless, Lingzi. Wu Katian forced a cold laugh. Fire Spirit, I know you're heavily injured and can't hold on for much longer. Don't try to be brave. Fire Spirit gritted his teeth and roared, Wu Katian, how long can I hold on? You'll know once you try. Ha ha. Hearing Fire Spirit's words, Wu Katian laughed. Fire Spirit, you still dare to threaten me? Ha ha. Wu Kadi slowly came close to Fire Spirit and stopped. Fire Spirit, stand up if you have the guts. Let's fight again. Hearing Wu Katian's provocation, Fire Spirit laughed to the sky. But before he finished laughing, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this, Wu Katian was overjoyed. He took 2 steps forward and said in a low voice, Fire Spirit, go persuade your brother. As long as he agrees to write down the contract, we'll pretend this never happened. What do you think? Are you dreaming? Hearing Wu Katian's words, Fire Spirit squeezed out these words from his teeth and struggled to stand up. Seeing Fire Spirit stand up, Wu Katian was on high alert. He clenched his fists and prepared for Fire Spirit's sudden attack. Fire Spirit stood up slowly and stared at Wu Katian with his eyes wide open. Wu Katian didn't want to be outdone and stared back at Fire Spirit with his eyes wide open. They looked at each other for a while and suddenly roared at the same time. In the next moment they both threw out their fists at the same time. Ah! The 2 men's fists collided with each other. Immediately, they let out shrill screams at the same time. Both of them were sent flying into the air at the same time. They landed in the distance and no longer moved. Li Mingshan squatted down and saw that his brother had only fainted. He was relieved. He turned to look at Water Spirit and said angrily, Water Spirit, is this your doing? Hearing this, Water Spirit sneered and said, Li Mingshan, you can only blame yourselves. If it wasn't for your sneak attack, things wouldn't have turned out like this. Li Mingshan slowly stood up and picked up the blade on the ground. He turned to look at Water Spirit and said coldly, Water Spirit, let me ask you, are you going to write a contract? Water Spirit shook her head. I was going to write one, but since you guys are acting like this, I can't write one. I don't want others to think that I'm afraid of you. Li Mingshan nodded. Yes, Water Spirit, you're not afraid of us, so you want to trick us. Speaking up to here, Li Mingshan paused for a moment before continuing, Water Spirit, I think you didn't plan to give us equipment. You wanted to trick us from the beginning, am I right? After hearing Li Mingshan's question, Shui Lingzi shook her head and said, Li Mingshui, you're wrong. Since I've negotiated with you, it means that I want to cooperate with you. But since you've done this, then our conditions are naturally invalid. After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshan suddenly sneered. He looked around and said coldly, Water Spirit, I don't know if you noticed, but among the people here today, other than you 2 brothers, there are no other Tiangongmen. Speaking up to here, Li Mingshan paused for a moment before continuing, Think about it, if you two brothers were hung here, would anyone know? Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Water Spirit subconsciously looked around. She was a little bit shocked. Although Water Spirit also knew that among the people here, only the two of them were Tiangongmen, she still couldn't help but look around, hoping that a miracle would happen and a Tiangongman would come to help. Seeing this scene, Li Mingshan sneered and shook his head. Water Spirit, you don't need to look around. Other than our three families, there are no outsiders. Don't hope for a miracle. Chapter 589. Hearing Li Shan's cold words, Shui Lingzi felt a chill from the bottom of her heart. She couldn't help but shiver. She looked around and suddenly found that it was very quiet. Fire Spirit was lying on the ground motionless. She didn't know how he was doing. Seeing this scene, Shui Lingzi was shocked. She was about to go and check on Fire Spirit when she saw Li Shan's hand move. She was shocked and stopped in her tracks. Li Shan tightly held the handle of the sword and slowly pointed the tip of the sword at Shui Lingzi. He sneered and said, Shui Lingzi, is your brother seriously injured or dead? Don't you want to go and check on him? At this point, Li Shan paused and let out a sneer before continuing, Water Spirit, hurry up and go. If you're late, the Fire Spirit won't be able to save him and you'll suffer a great loss. Although Shui Lingzi wanted to go and check on Fire Spirit's injuries, she didn't move. She knew that as soon as she turned around, Li Shan would immediately attack her from behind. Li Shan's sword was very fast. Shui Lingzi was very clear about it. Even if she faced it head-on, she couldn't guarantee that she would be able to dodge it. Li Shan's martial arts were higher than Li Mingshui's. Even though Shui Lingzi's back wasn't injured, she was still being beaten back by Li Mingshui. If she didn't take the risk, she would have been defeated by Li Mingshui. Now, the enemy she was facing was Li Shan, who was stronger than Li Mingshui. Shui Lingzi didn't dare to be careless. Li Mingshui sneered, Shui Lingzi, why don't you go? Isn't Fire Spirit your brother? Speaking up to hear, Li Shan paused for a moment. But then, he didn't wait for Shui Lingzi to reply and continued. Shui Lingzi, go quickly. I won't stop you. After hearing Li Shan's words, Shui Lingzi clenched her teeth and suddenly laughed. She pointed at Li Mingshui on the ground. Li Shan, Li Mingshui is under your feet. Why don't you look at him? Isn't Li Mingshui your brother? Li Shan shook his head and sneered. My brother is fine. He just fainted. He just needs to rest for a while. Speaking of this, Li Mingshui paused for a moment before continuing, but the Fire Spirit situation is a bit worrying. Let me see how many of you are dealing with him. Wu Ketian, Wu Kadi, and Shadowless. There are actually 3 of them. The Fire Spirit is really powerful. He actually defeated all 3 of them. Speaking up to this point, Li Shan sighed. Although the Fire Spirit defeated these 3 people, I wonder what price he paid? Shui Lingzi, do you really not want to see him? Hearing Li Mingshui's words, Shui Lingzi clenched her teeth and said coldly, Li Shan, there are only 2 of us left here. If you want to fight, then hurry up and stop talking nonsense. Li Shan shook his head and looked down at the blade in his hand. He slowly said, Shui Lingzi, you are seriously injured right now. You are definitely not my opponent. Speaking of this, Li Shan paused for a moment before continuing, Shui Lingzi, if you don't go and see the Fire Spirit now, I'm afraid that after I make my move, you won't have the chance to see him again. Hearing Li Shan's words, Shui Lingzi sneered and said, Li Shan, do you think you can beat me? Humph, I'm seriously injured, but aren't you injured just now? I remember that my punch just now also made you scream incessantly. Li Shan nodded, Shui Lingzi, your punch just now was really fierce. But do you think a punch of that level can hurt me? After saying this, Li Mingshan slowly walked towards Shui Lingzi. Seeing this, Shui Lingzi didn't dare to be careless. She slowly clenched her fists and prepared to fight. After Li Shan came to the best attack range, he sighed, Shui Lingzi, if you didn't want to act shamelessly, we wouldn't have come to this point. Shui Lingzi, if you are willing to write a contract now, we can let bygones be bygones. What do you think? Shui Lingzi shook her head. Li Shan, you people are unreasonable. We clearly agreed on the conditions, but you suddenly attacked us. What do I have to say to people like you? Li Shan shook his head. Shui Lingzi, you can't blame us. If you were willing to write a contract, then none of this would have happened. Speaking of this, Li Shan paused for a moment before continuing. Shui Lingzi, I think we shouldn't fight anymore. As long as you agree to write a contract, you can go and see the fire spirit. Isn't that good? Shui Lingzi sneered and shook her head. Li Shan, you think that after things have come to this point, I will still give you a contract? Are you dreaming? Seeing that Shui Lingzi still refused to write a contract, Li Shan suddenly sneered. Shui Lingzi, since you are so stubborn, then I can only help you. When the time comes, the Tiangongmen will only know that you two brothers are missing. They won't know the truth. Are you really willing? Shui Lingzi shook her head. Li Shan, we don't know who will win and who will lose. Aren't your words a bit too early? Li Shan coldly snorted. Shui Lingzi, even if you can beat me, what can you do? Look behind you, there is still Wu Kedi's uncle Wu Lai and Wu Ying's master Du Wudai. Even if you can beat me, can you beat them? Hearing Li Shan's words, Shui Lingzi was startled. She had been so focused on fighting with Li Shan's group that she had forgotten that there were still two more powerful experts on the other side who hadn't made a move yet. Thinking of this, Shui Lingzi suddenly felt a chill in her heart. If the other side only had Li Shan left, even if they couldn't beat him, it wasn't impossible for them to escape. They might not be able to take fire spirit with them, but at least they could escape. However, the other side still had Wu Lai and Du Wudai, which completely cut off Shui Lingzi's escape route. Shui Lingzi was sure that whether it was Wu Lai or Du Wudai, any one of them could easily deal with the two of them. Seeing Shui Lingzi's eyes flickering, Li Shan sneered. He knew that Shui Lingzi was afraid. If this matter happened to Li Shan, he would also be afraid. Although Li Shan hadn't seen how high Wu Lai and Du Wudai's martial arts were, he was sure that they were very high. They were definitely not people that Shui Lingzi and Fire Spirit could deal with. Thinking of this, Li Shan suddenly sneered. Shui Lingzi, you should just admit it. No matter how you resist, you are absolutely not our opponent. Chapter 590. After hearing Li Shan's words, Shui Lingzi couldn't help but frown. She looked around and tried to come up with an idea. The other side still had two experts who hadn't made a move yet. Once they did, she definitely wouldn't be their opponent. Shui Lingzi's eyes looked around, hoping to find a way to change the situation. But all of this was futile. The other side had two experts standing by her side. No matter what Shui Lingzi thought of, she wouldn't be able to escape from the hands of those two. Looking at the darkness in the distance, Shui Lingzi's heart suddenly moved. Since she couldn't beat them, why not run? The reason why Li Shan dared to make a move against her was because they were confident that they could kill her and her brother. As long as they killed them, naturally no news would spread. But if she ran, not only would she be safe, even Fire Spirit would be safe. Shui Lingzi believed that as long as she ran, Li Shan wouldn't dare to take the risk of being discovered and kill Fire Spirit. After understanding this point, Shui Lingzi's spirit shook. She quickly looked around and secretly chose a direction. Then she looked up at Li Shan and said with a smile, Li Mingshan, if you want it, you can do it yourself. I'll be honest with you. I can only give you one piece of level 20 equipment. I can't give you any more than that. If you're willing, I'll immediately write you a written agreement. How about it? Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Shan suddenly became angry. He pointed at Shui Lingzi and angrily shouted, Shui Lingzi, do you still want face? Originally you promised us 2 level 20 equipment, but I didn't think that you would be such a despicable person. Now you want to give us 1 level 20 equipment. Isn't this a bit too much? After hearing Li Shan's words, Shui Lingzi waved her hand. Li Shan, you misunderstood. It's not that I don't want to give it to you, but you also know how precious level 20 equipment is. How can I take out so many at once? Li Shan, you have to understand my difficulties. If things were easy, why would I take this risk and rather fight you than write a contract? Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing, Li Mingshan, if you agree to my current conditions, I'll immediately give you a written agreement. I won't go back on my word, what do you think? Li Shan sneered, Water Spirit, Shadowless is right. You never planned to give us equipment from the beginning. You were just trying to fool us, right? Water Spirit shook her head. No, at the beginning I really wanted to give you equipment in exchange for peace, so that we could take away Kikiaman's people as soon as possible. But you guys kept asking for more and more things. I really had no other choice, so in order to complete the mission, I could only lie to you once. Li Shan, as long as you agree to my conditions this time, I will immediately give you a written agreement. No matter when, you can fulfill it. Li Shan suddenly sneered. Water Spirit, you've lied to me for so long, do you think I'll still believe you? Shui Lingzi nodded. Why wouldn't I? As long as you have a written agreement, are you afraid that I won't give you equipment? Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Shan's heart suddenly moved. He looked around and saw that everyone had fallen to the ground. Only Wu Lai and Du Wudai were standing by the fire in the distance. He didn't know what they were talking about. Li Shan's heart fiercely jumped a few times. He took a step forward and said in a low voice, Water Spirit, are you willing to write an agreement with me? Shui Lingzi nodded. Li Shan, if I didn't want to write an agreement with you, why would I talk to you? Hurry up and think about it. As long as you agree, we can immediately write an agreement and your equipment will be in your hands. After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Shan looked around again and then gently nodded. Okay, since it's like this, then I'll agree. Speaking up to here, Li Shan paused for a moment before continuing, but I have to tell you, my 2 level 20 equipment and those 2 level 10 equipment, not a single one can be missing. You have to write them all down, otherwise, I won't agree to your request. Water Spirit pondered for a moment before nodding. All right, but you have to promise me that you won't tell them about this matter. I can only give each of them a piece of equipment that's over 10 levels. You absolutely can't tell them that I gave you 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Shan felt relieved. He finally understood that Shui Lingzi wanted to play this kind of trick. As long as he took the lead and wrote the agreement, the other 2 would quickly learn. Although the equipment would be halved, it was still better than nothing. As for himself, he had gotten the most equipment out of all of them. He had gotten 2 pieces of level 20 equipment, while the other 2 had only gotten 1. Thinking of this situation, Li Shan's heart was overjoyed. This kind of joy came from his heart because he got more advantages than the others. Thinking of this, Li Shan looked up at Shui Lingzi and urged, Shui Lingzi, since you're willing to write your agreement, then hurry up and write it. Shui Lingzi nodded and then said with a smile, Li Shan, you're in too much of a hurry. I don't even have a pen and paper right now, what do you want me to write with? Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Shan suddenly came to his senses. The pen and paper that were originally on the ground had been sent flying far away from him. Looking at the pen and paper in the distance, Li Shan didn't hesitate and immediately picked up the pen and paper on the ground. Li Shan picked up the pen and paper on the ground and immediately turned around. But after taking a few steps, his eyes suddenly widened and he roared, "Shui Lingzi, where do you think you're going?" After Li Shan shouted this sentence, he immediately jumped up and chased after Shui Lingzi. Shui Lingzi took advantage of the time when Li Shan went to pick up the pen and paper to turn around and run into the darkness. This was the purpose of Shui Lingzi's conversation with Li Shan. She wanted to trick Li Shan into picking up the pen and paper, and then take advantage of the time when he went to pick up the pen and paper to secretly run away. Shui Lingzi was very clear that her martial arts were similar to Li Shan's, but she was injured. If she didn't put some distance between them, she wouldn't be able to outrun Li Shan. Shui Lingzi believed that as long as Li Shan picked up the pen and paper on the ground, she would be able to take advantage of this delay and run far away so that Li Shan wouldn't be able to catch up. But Wu Lai and Du Wudai were on the other side. Even if they wanted to chase after Shui Lingzi, they would have to run farther than Li Shan in order to catch up to Shui Lingzi. This was Shui Lingzi's only chance to escape. Shui Lingzi must seize it, otherwise she wouldn't have another chance. Chapter 591. Seeing Shui Lingzi running away, Li Shan was furious. He threw down the pen and paper in his hand and immediately chased after Shui Lingzi. But Shui Lingzi had already run far away. Li Shan used all his strength but still couldn't close the distance between him and Shui Lingzi. Just as Li Mingshan was fuming with anger, he suddenly felt two figures quickly pass by him, chasing after Shui Lingzi. Li Shan saw this and was overjoyed. He knew that these two people were Wu Lai and Du Wudai. As long as they were willing to deal with Shui Lingzi definitely wouldn't be able to escape. The fact was similar to what Li Shan thought. Wu Lai and Du Wudai's figure flashed and quickly caught up to Shui Lingzi. Shui Lingzi, who was running for her life, saw that Li Mingshan couldn't catch up to her and was secretly happy. But then she noticed two strong gusts of wind pass by her and was startled. Before she could react, she felt her shoulders being grabbed by two people from both sides. "Shui Lingzi, you're too rude. Don't tell me you don't know how to say goodbye to us two old men?" After hearing Wu Lai's words, Shui Lingzi said with a trembling voice, "Senior, this one's matter is a bit urgent. Please forgive me and let me live." Du Wudai shook his head. "No, for someone like you who doesn't know how to be polite, you must be taught a good lesson." Speaking up to here, Du Wudai paused. He turned to look at Wu Lai and continued, "Old man, let's take him back and teach him how to respect his teacher." Wu Lai nodded. "Okay, then we'll take him back and teach him a good lesson." After Shui Lingzi heard the conversation between the two of them, she felt as if she was being lifted up by someone. Then, she was brought back to the place where she was originally standing at lightning speed. Looking at Li Shan in front of him, Shui Lingzi opened his mouth, but didn't know what to say. He could only sigh and helplessly lower his head. Li Shan quickly walked in front of Shui Lingzi and whispered, "If you're smart, wait a moment. What we just said, don't tell anyone. Otherwise, I will definitely not let you go." Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Shui Lingzi's heart suddenly shook as she recalled the conditions Li Mingshan had just mentioned. Just now, when they made the conditions with Li Shan, in fact, Li Shan had betrayed their alliance. Water Spirit agreed to give Li Mingshan 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. She told Li Mingshan not to say anything and to give one to Shadowless. Li Mingshan agreed to this plan. Thinking of this, Shui Lingzi sneered, "Li Mingshan, I can't even take care of myself right now, how could I have the time to care about your matters?" When Wu Lai and Du Wubao heard the conversation between the two, they looked at Li Shan with some doubts and shouted, "Li Shan, are you hiding something from us?" Hearing this, Li Mingshan hurriedly waved his hand. "How could that be? Why would I hide anything from you? I just want to tell Shui Lingzi not to let anyone know that I let him go, otherwise it would be too shameful. After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Du Wubao stepped forward and patted him on the shoulder, coldly saying, "When dealing with an enemy, especially one as cunning as Shui Lingzi, you must not be careless, otherwise the one to suffer will be you." Hearing Wu Wubao's words, Li Mingshan hurriedly nodded. Senior is right, Junior won't dare to do it again. On the side, Wu Lian suddenly said in a cold voice, "Li Mingshan, if it weren't for the fact that you really didn't want to let them go, we would have let you go. Otherwise, if you had really conspired with Shui Lingzi, don't blame us for being impolite." Hearing this, Li Mingshan's forehead suddenly broke out in cold sweat. What he and Shui Lingzi did just now could be considered as betraying the alliance, so Wu Lai's words made him feel a little scared. Wu Lai was just like his name, he had a bad temper. If he knew what he and Shui Lingzi had done just now, then he definitely wouldn't forgive him. Even if he didn't kill him and only broke his leg, he wouldn't be able to say anything. Even if he went back to report this to his sect, no one would be able to help him because he was the one in the wrong first, so he couldn't blame anyone. Even if his leg was broken, it was his own fault. Wu Lai turned to look at Du Wubao and said with a smile, "Old man, let's go back and continue drinking, let them deal with this matter themselves." After Du Wubao heard Wu Lai's words, he nodded and walked towards the river. Seeing Wu Lai and Du Wubao leave, Li Mingshan looked at Shui Lingzi and said softly, "Shui Lingzi, remember what I just said, if you dare to talk nonsense, I will definitely not let you go." Shui Lingzi sneered, "Li Mingshan, you should think about yourself first. If I tell them about this matter, I don't think they will let you go. You should think about how to deal with them first." After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshan suddenly became angry. He pointed at Shui Lingzi and snapped, "Shui Lingzi, you should take care of your own business first." Speaking up to here, Li Mingshan paused for a moment before continuing, "Shui Lingzi, you should think about how to give us a written agreement first." Hearing Li Mingshan's question, Shui Lingzi nodded, "I should think about how to give you a written agreement." Speaking up to here, Water Spirit paused for a moment before continuing, "Li Mingshan, how about this? I'll give you a piece of level 20 equipment as well as a written agreement. Then we'll forget about what happened just now, what do you think?" After hearing Water Spirit's words, Li Mingshan was so angry that his whole body trembled. He angrily said, "Water Spirit, don't go too far. We already agreed that the 2 pieces of level 20 equipment won't be missing. Why are you trying to go back on your word?" Shui Lingzi shook her head. "That was before, this is now. I only want to give you a level 20 equipment. If you are willing, we can immediately write you a written agreement. If you are not willing, Humph, then I will tell you what you did just now. I will tell them everything and let them know what kind of person you, Li Mingshan, are." After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshan was so angry that the veins on his forehead bulged. But there was nothing he could do. If Shui Lingzi really told them about this matter, then the one who would suffer would be him. Thinking up to here, Li Mingshan suppressed his anger and slowly said, "Shui Lingzi, don't go too far. 2 level 20 equipment for each person. If you are willing, then quickly write me a written agreement. Otherwise, even if we fight to the death, I will not agree to it." After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Shui Lingzi sneered, "Li Mingshan, do you really dare to do this? Are you not afraid of them knowing what you did?" Li Mingshan clenched his teeth. Chapter 592. Li Shan angrily said, "Water Spirit, don't go too far. We already agreed on those 2 level 20 equipment. Are you going back on your words now?" Water Spirit shook her head, "Li Shan, it's not that I'm going back on my words, but what you've done is too much. You 3 ganged up to attack us, and I haven't even settled this account with you yet, but now you're talking about me. Li Shan, let me tell you, if you're really different, then I won't give you a single piece of equipment. You can do whatever you want. Li Shan clenched his teeth and looked at Water Spirit. After a long while, he slowly said, Water Spirit, don't be so arrogant. Let me tell you, you've fallen into our hands. You have no choice but to do as we say. If you don't want to, then I can tell you that you two brothers will disappear from this world forever. After hearing Li Shan's words, Water Spirit coldly smiled. Li Shan, are you threatening me? Li Shan sneered. Water Spirit, even if I threaten you, what can you do? Besides writing down the agreement, I'm afraid you have no other choice. Water Spirit looked around and nodded. It seems that besides writing down the agreement, I really don't have any other choice. Speaking up to here, Water Spirit paused and sighed before continuing, so I can only reduce the amount of equipment that can be reduced to the minimum to reduce my losses. Hearing Water Spirit's words, Li Shan's eyes suddenly flashed with a cold light. He took a step forward and coldly asked, Water Spirit, so you want to reduce my equipment to reduce your losses? Water Spirit nodded. Besides this, I really don't have any other choice. Hearing Water Spirit's answer, Li Shan suddenly sneered. Water Spirit, do you really think so? Water Spirit nodded. Li Shan, I have no other choice. I hope you can understand me. Li Shan reached out and grabbed the hilt of his sword. Water Spirit, even if I agree, my sword won't. Water Spirit shook her head. Li Shan, you have no other choice. You and I are the same. We can only submit to this fact. Li Mingshan sneered. What if I say no? Hearing Li Mingshan's answer, Shui Lingzi smiled contemptuously. Li Mingshan, do you have any other choice in this situation? Li Shan slowly pulled out his saber and coldly said, I have a choice, and I will use my saber to make the choice. Shui Lingzi shook her head. Li Mingshan, you won't. Even if you want to make a choice, I'm sure there are people who don't want you to make such a choice. Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshan's heart shook and he subconsciously glanced at Wu Lai and Du Wubao in the distance, his heart quivering as he remembered that these two masters were watching from the side. Sure enough, just as Li Mingshan turned his head, Du Wubao shouted from afar, Li Mingshan, how's the matter going? Hurry up and settle it. Hearing this, Li Mingshan clenched his teeth and turned to Shui Lingzi, whispering, Shui Lingzi, as long as you agree to follow the original plan, I'll let you go. Shui Lingzi shook her head. No, I've already said that our Tiangongmen's losses are too great. I must reduce the losses. Seeing Shui Lingzi not changing her mind, Li Mingshan was about to fly into a rage, but he had no choice but to whisper, Shui Lingzi, you really don't want to write it? Shui Lingzi shook her head. I can write it, but you have to write it according to what I just said. I'll only give you a level 20 equipment. Just as Shui Lingzi's voice fell, she felt a saber flash in front of her and a cold aura hit her. Shui Lingzi was startled and hurriedly retreated. But how could Li Mingshan's saber be so easy to dodge? Although Shui Lingzi dodged very quickly, she was still cut in the shoulder by Li Mingshan's saber, causing Shui Lingzi to scream in pain and dodge to the side again. Shui Lingzi had no choice but to dodge again and again because Li Mingshan didn't give her a chance. After the first strike, he didn't stop. Seeing Shui Lingzi dodge the first strike, Li Mingshan coldly snorted and stepped forward again, sweeping the blade in his hand and chasing after Shui Lingzi. Shui Lingzi wanted to shout, but Li Mingshan was too fast. Even if she wanted to shout to attract Wu Lai and Du Wudai's attention, it was impossible. She could only try to dodge Li Mingshan's attacks. Just as Li Mingshan was about to release the third saber strike, Du Wudai's shout came from afar. Li Mingshan, what are you doing? Hurry up and make him write the agreement. What are you waiting for? Hearing Du Wudai's shout, Li Mingshan froze for a moment and his speed slowed down a bit. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Shui Lingzi had the chance to shout. Li Mingshan, do you want to kill me? Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshan was shocked. He didn't dare to speak again. Suddenly, he stomped on the ground and jumped into the air. The saber in his hand instantly turned into a saber light and chopped towards Shui Lingzi. Li Shan's saber was as fast as lightning and as powerful as thunder, causing cold sweat to drip down from Shui Lingzi's forehead. Not daring to speak again, she hurriedly lowered her body and used all her strength to flee to the side. Shui Lingzi had just rushed forward when he felt a chill on his back. Although he couldn't see his back, he knew that he was hit by Li Mingshan's saber. Shui Lingzi didn't dare to be negligent. After rushing forward, he immediately rolled on the ground. After rolling a few steps, he suddenly stood up and looked at Li Mingshan behind him. Shui Lingzi just stood up and saw a saber light flashing in front of him. Li Mingshan had already chased after him. Shui Lingzi was scared out of his wits. He didn't dare to stay any longer and hurriedly turned around to run. Among the many people here, Li Mingshan's injuries were the lightest. It could be said that he still maintained 100% of his strength. Shui Lingzi couldn't do the same. He had been injured many times and his strength had already decreased by 30% or 40%. Not only that, the injury on his back was very serious. Every time he dodged, he would feel severe pain and his speed would slow down a bit. This was equal to Li Mingshan using his full strength to deal with Shui Lingzi, who only had 50% of his strength left. Shui Lingzi endured the pain on his back and looked around. When he saw Li Mingshui on the ground, his eyes suddenly lit up. He no longer cared about the pain on his back and hurriedly rushed towards Li Mingshui. As soon as Shui Lingzi moved, Li Mingshan understood his intentions. His heart was filled with shock as he hurriedly jumped towards Li Mingshui's direction, wanting to block Shui Lingzi's path before he could reach him. Chapter 593. Although Li Mingshan's plan was good, but Water Spirit also understood that if he couldn't reach Li Mingshui, then he would be the one to suffer. Water Spirit desperately rushed toward Li Mingshui, but just as he was about to reach him, he suddenly felt a chill from the top of his head. His heart suddenly panicked, and he hurriedly bent forward and rolled toward Li Mingshui. Li Mingshan's attack missed, and his heart was startled. He wanted to chase again, but it was already too late. Water Spirit rolled forward a few times and reached Li Mingshui's side. Water Spirit didn't wait for Li Mingshui to stand up, and immediately reached out to grab Li Mingshui's throat. She turned to look at Li Mingshan and shouted, "Li Mingshan, do you not want Li Mingshui's life?" Seeing Li Mingshui fall into the hands of Water Spirit, Li Mingshan could only stop and secretly sigh. He knew this was bad. Water Spirit, quickly release Li Mingshui. After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Shui Lingzi only sneered and slowly said, "That's right. Li Mingshan, after I release Li Mingshui, will you chase me again?" Li Mingshan angrily said, "Water Spirit, if you didn't go too far, why would I make a move on you?" Water Spirit shook her head. "Li Mingshan, aren't you saying the opposite? The one who went too far is you." Speaking up to here, Water Spirit paused for a moment before continuing, "Li Mingshan, you sneak attacked me for no reason, causing me to lose my life. Now, you're saying that I'm going too far? Isn't that too ridiculous?" Li Mingshan coldly snorted, "Water Spirit, if you didn't want to reduce our equipment, why would I attack you?" Water Spirit shook her head. "I reduced your equipment because you did something wrong. If you don't want to be discovered by them, then obediently listen to me. Although I reduced your equipment, it's not like you didn't gain anything. At least you got a level 20 equipment." Hearing this, Li Mingshan angrily said, "Shui Lingzi, don't be so sarcastic. Let me ask you, if you were me, what would you do? If I agreed to your conditions, how would I go back and report it to my father? When I go to your place to ask for the equipment, everyone else will only obtain 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. Only I will obtain one piece of level 20 equipment. Why don't you tell me if the godly Blade Gate will suspect me of pocketing the equipment? If things really turn out this way, how am I supposed to take out that piece of level 20 equipment? Speaking up to hear Li Mingshan's tone, and then he continued, Water Spirit, I don't want to fight with you anymore. As long as you treat everyone equally and give everyone 2 level 20 equipment, I won't bother you. What do you think? Water Spirit shook her head. No, I said, to reduce my losses. While the two's talkings, Wu's, Li's also reach his hands. Wu Kutian was hit by Fire Spirit Z's punch, so when he arrived in front of Water Spirit Z, he coughed a few times before speaking. Water Spirit, hurry up and write the agreement. Now that you're injured, I don't want to waste any more time. Hearing Wu Ketian's question, Shui Lingzi sneered, Wu Ketian, now that things have reached this point, I can write my name for you, but you'll have to ask Li Mingshan if he agrees. Hearing Water Spirit's words, Wu Ketian looked at Li Mingshan with some doubt. Li Mingshan, you don't want to write the agreement? Li Mingshan clenched his teeth, hesitated, and then slowly said, Water Spirit, don't play tricks. If you want to write it, then write it. Water Spirit nodded and sneered. Li Mingshan, then I'll really write it down. Hearing Shui Lingzi still dilly-dallying, Wu Ketian impatiently said, Hurry up and write, no more nonsense. Water Spirit ignored Wu Ketian and just looked at Li Mingshan. Li Mingshan, then I'll write according to what we just said. Li Mingshan suddenly became angry. He suddenly clenched his teeth and shouted, Water Spirit, hurry up and write. If you want to say something, then say it, I don't care. Seeing Li Mingshan's appearance, Water Spirit was stunned. After a long while, she hesitantly asked, Li Mingshan, aren't you afraid? Li Mingshan sneered, Water Spirit, what do I have to be afraid of? Everything was done by you, it has nothing to do with me. Hurry up and write it down so we can leave here as soon as possible. Water Spirit thought that if she threatened Li Mingshan, she would take out one less equipment, but she didn't expect Li Mingshan to not be afraid. Seeing that the enemy was strong and she was weak, Water Spirit didn't dare to go too far. If by any chance Li Mingshan's crazy revenge was not something that the seriously injured Water Spirit could resist. Thinking of this, Water Spirit was about to let go of Li Mingshui's hand, but suddenly her heart moved and she laughed. Li Mingshui is now in my hands. If you still want Li Mingshui to live, then hurry up and let me go. Hearing Water Spirit's words, Li Mingshan was startled. He just remembered that his brother was still in Water Spirit's hands. Seeing Li Mingshan's pale face, Water Spirit was proud. She laughed and said, Li Mingshan, if you know what's good for you, then hurry up and let me go, otherwise we will all die together. Hearing Water Spirit's words, Li Mingshan clenched his teeth and turned to look at Wu Ketian. Wu Ketian was also startled, but soon he relaxed. He turned to Li Mingshan and said with a smile, Li Mingshan, you don't need to be afraid of him. Although Li Mingshui is in Water Spirit's hands, don't forget that Fire Spirit is also in our hands. If he really dares to harm Li Mingshui, I can guarantee you that Fire Spirit will definitely accompany Li Mingshui. Hearing Wu Ketian's words, Li Mingshan subconsciously looked at the unconscious Fire Spirit in the distance and felt a little relieved. Water Spirit secretly sighed and slowly let go of Li Mingshui's hand. She was very clear that Fire Spirit was still unconscious. Although no one was going to catch him now, if she dared to do anything to Li Mingshui, her fate would not be any better before she died. Seeing Water Spirit let go of his hand, Wu Ketian slowly said, Water Spirit, you are smart. Although everyone is injured, as long as we go back and rest for a while, we will be fine. It can be considered as not a big loss. Speaking up to here, Wu Ketian paused for a moment before continuing, Water Spirit, now you just need to write down the equipment you owe us, then this matter will be over. You can go do what you need to do, we should also go back. Hearing Wu Ketian's words, Water Spirit gritted her teeth, but there was nothing she could do. She could only coldly snort and loudly say, "Then hurry up and bring me a pen and paper, I will write it down for you." You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.